Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Shout out to Morning Combat.
Do you want a margarita?
Yes!
My God!
Us doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, let's do this thing. A lot to recap from the weekend that was. Welcome on in. This is Morning Combat Monday, December 8th, 2025, fresh off the final pay-per-view of the ESPN UFC era, a changing of the guard atop the two lowest men's weight classes, and yet another draw for Lamont Roach Jr. on the PBC side. Brian Campbell, your host today on the right side of the screen, representing Connecticut and the Quebecois. Okay, you know what I'm saying right there? Because I'm barely pronouncing it. On the other side of me, DC's finest, Luke Thomas. Yes, Luke Franklin Thomas, LFT in the house. Luke, how is your testosterone at this levels at this moment?
I mean, it's been declining for years and probably at states that are pathetic and largely undetectable with medical science, but I'm fucking here.
Okay, all right. Yeah, did you? Hey, I didn't watch it live. I did catch up on everything I needed this morning, but UFC 323, did you enjoy it?
Man, I'll tell you what, prelims were insane. Opener on the main card was it was whatever. I didn't, but I thought everything after that was pretty great. And as we'll talk, well, you know what? The co-main event was real anticlimactic. That was a problem.
Yeah, we have a new Aljo Sterling, and his name is Joshua Van.
Yeah,
right?
Seriously.
Yeah.
But that main event was special. That was really, really special. So, I enjoyed that a lot.
Shout out to Petr Yan, Piotr. Fantastic stuff. Let's introduce a man who's very well versed in peyote. He is a producer, director, the third man of our team, a bong enthusiast, and good Lord, was his dad horny about 3 decades ago, coming from Australia. It's Luke Nocita of the Main Card Minute. I'm sure, Luke, you were live streaming like a mofo on Saturday.
I was, and I was very disappointed when Merab lost. We're still mourning today, BC. I'm not too happy about it. Josh Van didn't seem to mind to get the Aljo win there. He was beating his chest on top of the cage like he just won it all. I mean,
hey, big moment for Myanmar. Yeah. Don't call it Burma, all right?
Yeah, I won't call it Burma. He wasn't alive when it was called Burma, so there you go. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Special thank you to all the consistent viewers, the hardcores. I'm looking at you right now. Thank you for tuning in today. Shout out to everybody watching on the DraftKings Network. If you could like and subscribe here on YouTube, or if you're an audio-only divorced dad currently grocery shopping, we'd appreciate that. Follow our extended YouTube channels, Long Island Luke's Main Card Minute as well. Oh, quickly, LIL, how did it go with GC versus old New York Rick over on the prop quiz?
I mean, I don't want to give any spoilers in case people haven't caught it yet. I like to give these some life, but it was very close. Came down to the last one. Very entertaining episode. Gonna have a new one this week, so everyone stay tuned.
Wow, a phenomenon, Luke Thomas, that he's built. You and I, we suck at it, but what a phenomenon he's built,
Oh, I suck the most, but indeed, yes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could have told you that, whether we're talking about trivia or not, Luke. But also, if you want to dress like us and feel like us and maybe even look like us, how about you go to morningcombat.shop. December exclusives are in the building. Average Joe Art cooking up another winner here with our Masters of the Universe inspired t-shirts, signed posters available. And of course, with the holiday season kicking in here, mix and match colors, evergreen items available. Order by December 11th, and you should have a sporting chance of receiving it by Christmas. No update on Kwanzaa, however. It's more of a wild card on our end. So good luck to everybody playing. Thank you for supporting the show. All the dollars go directly in our pockets, Long Island Luke included. Luke Thomas, before we dig so damn deep, right? So deep into the combat of the weekend, how are you doing personally?
I'm tired, bro. I'm so glad that these pay-per-views are moving to 9 a.m. And I know every European person is going to well, fucking get over it. It's like, dude, I've been doing this. I've been giving up my Saturday nights for 20 years, like more than that, actually. I'm tired. It's actually, the thing is, when I was single, you can just sleep in, get up whenever you want. But, dude, that Tukster is up at 7 a.m. and she is ready to play. So it's, I'm tired.
Dude, the Tukes don't even need meldonium. She's just going at all times, right? 24/7.
She needs no meldonium. It's 7 a.m. and she is, a bucking bronco the whole time.
Yeah. I only slept a couple hours Saturday at an early flight. And, it's harder and harder to bounce back. Not to complain about a fantastic life, but I slept a lot of yesterday and this morning, and I'll probably sleep again after this, Luke, because we are old pieces of shit. Yeah, people keep tuning in, so God bless them. All right, let's do it. Let's get fired up. Let's unwrap what went down this past Saturday night, Las Vegas UFC 323. And as we mentioned, ESPN Plus era, goodbye, except for next week's fight night. We will welcome in the launch and start of the Paramount CBS era. But in the main event on Saturday night, looking to create history for himself, was bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili. But 4 training camps in 1 calendar year, did it all catch up with him? We'll have Luke Thomas here to break it down in a second. Either way, what a night for former champion Petr Yan, who came out and stuffed takedowns from Merab, switched stances, outboxed him, and really used that stiff jab to mark up his face, becoming a 2-time champion. And what turned into a rout of Merab, 4-1 on most scorecards, except for Daniel Cormier's, who just could not believe that anyone would score those early rounds against him. Luke, just how special was this victory for Petr Yan, and what made it ultimately such a noteworthy achievement here? Years removed from being DQ'd against Aljo, came back from a 3-fight losing skid, built up a 3-fight win skid, but yet the performance we saw on Saturday, none of us predicted.
There was a stat by a friend, a colleague of mine, Ovin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Please forgive me.
They call him OSP. Yeah.
No, Ovin Vithinage. I might be saying it wrong. He is a great sort of member of the online MMA community. He does some work, I think, for MMA Point, and he's helped me a little bit as well. He found a crazy stat, BC, and I think it really speaks to just how brilliant and special Saturday night was. I did not know this. One thing that we have talked about pretty consistently on this show, BC, is, when someone has a UFC title, then they lose it. For the most part, they never get it back. And if they do get it back, BC, it tends to happen relatively quickly, sometimes with an immediate rematch or trilogy, whatever the case may be, or they move a weight class, right, within relatively short order. Like, I think of Poatan, for example, doing something along those lines. Those tend to be the scenarios. But the sort of maxim is that, A, you don't get it back, and then B, if you do, it has to happen very, very quickly. But there are very, very, very rare cases in MMA where it can last years before someone reclaims it. Carlos Esparza is actually holding the record, but I think we can all agree that that's not the kind of authoritative win to reclaim it that we got from Petr Yan. But it actually goes much further than that, BC. I think Yan is 3rd all-time in terms of distance between losing a title and then regaining it. But here is where he stands utterly alone. He is the first fighter to have a UFC title, then go on a 3-fight losing streak, and then reclaim the title. That has literally never been done until Saturday night in any era, any gender, any weight class, period. He's the only guy that holds that distinction. BC, you asked about how special it was to be able to defy the virtual laws of MMA gravity in this way is by itself its own kind of achievement. But to do that against a guy who was, I know we're going to talk about how drained he was, but I'm sorry, we don't need to undercut Jan's win. I picked Merab to win. We all said we're going to pick him until we have a reason not to. He has put together the most impressive bantamweight career of any bantamweight that's ever been there. To do it against a guy like that with those circumstances, BC, and to do it with the kind of technical and strategic mastery that he put into it, it's just, I'm serious. It's one of the all-time best UFC title-winning performances. I am not saying it's number 1. I haven't ranked it in that way, BC, but it's on the very, very short list. This guy proved tons of people wrong, me and others included, and defied all the known laws of the MMA universe to accomplish that with the longest journey to get back to that day. This is just magisterial. Truly that.
And the losing skid that he did incur was obviously against super elite competition on basically the title level. And there were some split decisions, as we talked about, coming into this week. But no, I didn't necessarily expect the command, the increase in the striking. We knew head-to-head if it was a 5-round boxing match, Yan would have an edge. But you're not going to be able to create that kickboxing match unless you're able to stuff the takedowns, stuff the spamming, and then provide a takedown threat of his own, taking down Merab 3 times. The mental journey that Yan went on, it's incredible. It's incredible watch. I was actually hoping his sons were going to be allowed in the cage. Do you remember when when Yan scored his 3rd straight win on this comeback tour? His son was in there and gave like a, emphatic, emotional, I love my dad, kind of reverse Mr. Weidman there. But what a performance. But Luke, I now go through a lot of things Merab said or did during fight week. And I know that we did plant that seed Friday, as we should have, with all the comments he made about the weight cut. I do have to ask you this question before we get any further. Congratulations. Did Merab play himself? Like, was this as much as we were identifying this as such a daring to be great, capitalizing on your prime, looking to make history, did he ultimately, I don't know if greedy is the word, but like, in hindsight, was this a horrific decision, or did he just straight up get beat in a second chance by a fighter who was injured the first time, healthy this time, and upped his game along the way?
Yeah, I mean, remember, dude, you can make an argument that Yan won 5-0. It's not crazy. I did think that Merab won the first round. All 3 judges gave Merab the first round. 1 judge gave him the second round as well. And that's it. So he basically won 4-1, and you could have argued it 5-0. Could the fight have been closer, BC, and maybe even gone the other way if this had happened under somewhat different circumstances? I think that that's a fair thing to consider, and Merab will get an opportunity to prove such a thing. Well, actually, we don't know how that will go, but probably we'll get a way to prove that. Like, there's no way. Listen, here's the reality, right? I have seen fighters who, even in cases where they won Fighter of the Year, 2009 Jose Aldo, 2011 John Jones, they had 4 fights in a year. Jose Aldo, though, only one of those was a title fight in 2009. In 2011, for John Jones, he went 4-0 and had 4 finishes, by the way, but 3 of them were title fights. 1 was not, the Ryan Bader fight. Then you have 2020, where Davison Figueiredo does have 4 title fights, although he missed weight for the first one, so he was ineligible to win it, but it still was a 5-round title fight. But he went 3-0-1. He had a draw in his last one. To my knowledge, certainly in the modern era, no one has done this. Not at the UFC level, maybe in other organizations, but it's just never been done. It is very, very difficult to do that kind of a thing. You can't ignore that, BC. You can't. But we also just have to kind of be honest. Like, when you get a prediction right, cool. When you get it wrong, time to think about why. In this particular case, I don't think it was necessarily wrong to maybe default to default to Merab. The guy had beaten him before. He was on the run of all runs. I think that's pretty fair. At the same time, BC, he's human too. We've just been coasting in this world where, there are rules for everybody else, and Merab just defies them. But we finally found a spot where the rules began to apply to him too, and he looked a lot more human as a consequence.
He did, and I'm not saying that's the reason why, because ultimately, Yan stuffing the takedowns, Yan scoring. I was wrong. Long Island Luke corrected me in real time. Dead wrong me on a Monday.
Yeah, 5 of 9. 5 of 9.
So that all matters. The wrinkles in his boxing game matters. And I'm not going to piss on Merab for ambition and trying to be great. But now in hindsight, I do have to say, not just the 4 training camps in a year and all that talk about the weight cut. And we played that video Friday of DC talking to Shaq on CBS Sports HQ and saying Merab cuts it in an old school style that, could leave him depleted. Again, I don't think that was the reason why he lost. They said on the broadcast he sparred 5 full rounds the morning of the fight. Like, Merab has that Dennis Rodman level gas tank where after an NBA game, Rodman would go back on the cardiovascular machines for another 2 hours just to get that out of his system. But when I look back, specifically the interview I had with Merab, and it's weird, they played a quote of it on UFC Embedded episode 3 last week. And I was kind of wondering why they played the quote, because it was a quote that when Merab said it in real time, I sort of went like, wait, like that doesn't sound like super confident champion. And the quote was, he said, heading into the first Yan fight, which wasn't a title fight, he wanted to win so badly because of the personal trash talk back and forth between them, that in his mind, he was fighting to the death. He was fighting for a title, even though it wasn't one, and that it was all personal, and that's what fueled him. And he goes, I don't know why, but in this rematch, I don't feel the same emotions. He's like, I'm not even nervous. I just feel like this is sport. And, so I'm now starting to wonder if, Merab, was he being a little greedy trying to fit this in to end the calendar year? I mean, maybe, but that fire didn't seem to be the same. It didn't seem to be on that same level. I don't know. Maybe it became a job this year to try to get to that level of history and do this. And I don't know what would have happened if Merab had 6 months off, full camp, everything healthy, what have you. A lot of this was Petr Yan rising to the occasion, and that's what happens. And, oh, by the way, let's give Merab credit. I mean, he took a beating. He made that a crazy fun fight. It was a very good title fight. But in hindsight, I think there are a few different lanes where you can look at how Merab handled this whole thing and kind of pick that apart. And I'm not going to do the Jed Meshew and post the tweet and say, by the way, Merab was never the GOAT and you guys all fell for it. But we did see a great fighter in a time we thought was the absolute apex peak of his career, looking to double down on history, overextend himself. I think we can say that firmly at the very least.
He chased greatness. And sometimes you're going to get it and sometimes you're not. And this is the part of the stretch that is the most difficult. And he came up short. I am perfectly. What is Jed's argument? Who is the bantamweight GOAT according to him?
I don't know, but you remember on pregame preview, Jed gave a long rant about how Merab's just decision machine, just how, he's not the best. His argument was Merab may have accumulated the type of wins that could make you the bantamweight GOAT, but because he's not a finisher, because he just sort of leans on that cardio and the wrestling, that he's not the actual best fighter in bantamweighters.
He's definitely not the best pure fighter. That's true. What is he the best at? Is he the best wrestler? He's a very good wrestler, but maybe not the best. He's certainly not the best striker. He's not the best submission guy. There's guys who have more developed skills than him, but his level of accomplishment is, I don't think, really debatable. But getting back to the point, BC, the guy chased greatness. And I think for the most part, BC found it. For the most part, he did find greatness. He just wanted to go to a level that had truly never been gone to before, not successfully. And that's a really difficult thing to do. I'm also going to say this, BC. This is not necessarily the case with Volk versus Lopez, although I take Lopez as a dangerous threat. He could still very much win that one, given that Volk's older and chinny now, right? But in general, what I want to say was, this is why rematches are important for long title reigns. Like, giving these fighters another crack, another world-class guy, another crack at you, particularly years later, I hope everyone can appreciate that's a daunting task. Yeah. And, for a guy like St. Pierre to fight Penn twice, Koscheck twice, he really went out there and gave a lot of these, elite guys an opportunity to get like another run at him. And he was still able to defeat basically all of them. It's important in a guy's title reign that he get newcomers as well as the other standouts who get to retool and give it another go, because you just never know what's going to happen in the sport. Rematches under the right circumstances are very important.
Yeah, just the final thing I want to say is, in my interview, I was kind of glazing Merab, like playing up the history he's making, the fact that he's kind of already being called the bantamweight GOAT. If he keeps up that streak of consecutive wins, he could break the record. And it was weird. He was almost interrupting me to be like, hold on, brother. Like, I'm just human. You know what I mean? I just work hard. So I don't know. I just got these weird feelings during the interview, but shout out to Yan, the way he pulled it out. Let's hear from Petr Yan on just a beautiful comeback victory to ascend the throne of one of the sport's best divisions.
Я очень стремительно пришел к поясу. Очень много допустил ошибок в своих прошлых подготовках. Очень я сильно верил, что я все умею бороться. По факту я ошибался.
Not exactly, but it was more of like I streamlined myself to the belt really quick. I kind of thought that I already knew everything. I got all the skills for everything, and I underestimated how much goes into this championship mentality and the preparation to be a champ.
Я знаю, какие я допускал ошибки перед теми поединками. Знаю, что где-то мне не хватало именно командной работы. И мы это исправили.
I know which mistakes I allowed myself to make before that first fight. And I know that the big thing that was missing was teamwork. And this is something that we fixed. We are now a team.
Luke, you can argue looking back on the losses he suffered at the highest level that like maybe one was clean and clear. So what do you believe this comeback, the way that he's raised his game at age 32 here, what does it say about his potential upside moving forward?
Well, what's kind of interesting to me, and I think this is something I've not seen discussed enough, which is in many ways, the way he rushed to the title so quickly ended up causing him to not be able to hold on to it. On the other hand, the fact that he lost it so early into his athletic prime, despite having, as we've talked about, the 3 subsequent losses back to back to back, it actually enabled him during his prime to reconstitute himself and then reclaim the belt towards the end of his prime. He's 32 BC. I think he's going to be 33, I think around February. I could be wrong. You can double check that. Hold on, I got to sneeze. Excuse me.
God bless you, Luke.
Yeah, thank you. But it actually is kind of interesting. Most people, a lot of guys, they don't get the title until they're almost in the middle or the end of their prime, or at least some title opportunities. But because he got it so early, he was able to reconstitute himself and then recapture it still within the late end anyway of the prime version of himself. That unusual early detour, BC, and with the right changes in his teamwork, the right changes in his game, leveling up, all the other things that go into it, but being able to channel that back enabled him to have success on this back end. Again, everything about this is unusual. He's not supposed to be in this position, but by the virtue of all of the many things that have happened to him and his considerable talent, here he is bucking the trend. You're asking about where it goes upside. He's still got some good time left. Do you favor him against Umar? Do you favor him against Merab in a rematch? These are really difficult fights. It's going to be hard for either of those guys to win, or I should say any of the 3. But he is going to make it tough for any of them, and I can't wait to see.
Yeah, before we get into what's next, I also need to mention that he learned the lesson that a lot of people learn against Merab, that cardio is just a different beast inside of Dvalishvili. So if you want to contend with him, right, I always make that comparison back to Stipe, who lost that very competitive 5-round main event against Junior Dos Santos, partially because he had to learn in that moment what 5-round cardio really was, and boy, did Stipe turn that around for the future of his career. You got to give Yan a ton of credit for the cardio he had in this rematch to be able to keep it up at that level, especially in the championship rounds when normally Merab just turns it up to another gear and just overwhelms you. Like taking away from the grind of Merab doing 4 camps, the weight cut, all of that, I think you can take it away because Yan raised his game so much that even if Merab was 75% of himself, if that's true, that 75% could still win on most nights against almost anybody in the world. But Yan knew what he was up against. He retooled. So on the flip side, Luke, I did want to sneak this question in. You always talk about when someone's on top for a long time, that the tape study just gets built up and up and up. And yes, we kind of fell into that same groove when someone's so dominant for so long, where we both kind of said it heading into this fight, that like until he doesn't, I'm going to believe in him and I'm going to pick him. How much of this victory do you think was the idea that for as great as Merab is, and he raised up his striking in recent fights, he's become a legitimate top 3 pound for pound fighter coming into this fight. How much was it that like all of those things that made him great, you give the opponents enough time to study it and figure it out, that in some cases his style was almost solved by Yan in this performance?
There's no question in my mind, and this is the most important. I want to say something too, because as Merab has gotten hotter and hotter and hotter, obviously it came to a conclusion on Saturday, but during this long, incredible run he's been on, where he's basically defeating every style with what can be described as labor. I mean, he obviously nearly knocked out Sandhagen. He submitted Sean O'Malley, but in general, we kind of know what the score is. And so I've been doing a lot of thinking, like, what kind of style beats Merab? What do you have to have? And one of the things I've been thinking about was that I don't know how much sense it makes to try and out-labor the guy. And yes, you want to fight takedowns, but not super hard. Like, what you want to do is be able to, at times super hard, but in general, what you want to be able to do is just score maximum damage, right? Because otherwise he's just going to be able to keep working. And to me, what is so impressive about what Yan did was Yan actually was like, no, that's actually not the game plan. The game plan is we're going to out-wrestle him first. And then we're going to worry about the damage that comes later. And there were some other adjustments that he made. I don't know if anyone picked up on this. He got his legs battered by Merab in the first fight. Merab tried it this time, and he checked him early, and Merab never really went back to it. Like, that is an important adjustment. And it leads me to say the following. Not only did he show what you actually have to have, which is, otherworldly level of wrestling, but it doesn't start with damage first and don't worry about the wrestling. It's worry about the wrestling and then let the damage take care of itself. And more to the point, I think that they kind of knew what his offensive system is. BC, he's got head inside singles, head outside singles, doubles, different setups for all three. And against the fence, he has different ways in which he goes to try and trip out Kosoto hooks, all different things he uses. He has some kind of judo throws as well. He's got an Uchimata, things like that. They had him dead to rights. They figured out all of the places that you need to stop or reverse it to utterly kill it in the process. And it had a pronounced effect on the whole thing. I mean, understand, 49 takedowns attempted in their first fight. He only got 11 of them, which I know 11 is a lot, obviously, but relative to 49 is not very high. Yan did a really good job the first time, but to reduce him to 2, and not just reduce him to 2, BC, he didn't get off nearly as many attempts either. They knew what his offensive system was. And by the way, I haven't mentioned how this goes to the front headlock. He couldn't make effective use of the front headlock in this fight. He got 2 cradles in the first fight. They figured him out. And to your point, BC, about looking at the tape, they clearly game planned around the specific scenarios that Merab puts you in, work those out. And I thought he did a brilliant job.
Yeah, and I thought there were 2 significant moments where Yan really planted the flag to say this will not look like the first fight. The first one was in round 1 when he landed that huge, I think it was a counter left hand that, visibly stung Merab and showed him that, like, if you're just going to spam me, like, you're going to pay for it. And then obviously the second one was round 3 when he picked him up and slammed him on his damn head, Luke. Never would have guessed that. In that moment, I felt like had a profound shift in, like, this is Yan's night. From that moment forward, it really felt like this was going to be Yan's fight.
It takes the right positioning. It takes a little moxie, but it's also them understanding position. If I'm going for a guillotine on you, BC, what is protecting me from getting slammed? I mean, could be position if I'm putting enough stress on your low back or something like that, but my hands are occupied. So if your hands are occupied and you're in a good enough position to be able to get to an angle to do it, dude, give him frequent flyer miles. And that's exactly what he did. He had no way to brace himself, so he went crashing face first into the mat. Just amazing situational awareness because they knew to plan for that front headlock series.
Now, I did feel bad watching the clip that was posted online after of Merab, like, in tears, apologizing to his family and his country. I mean, he's been such a decorated champion. He's got a hilarious personality. I know the pride he has for Georgia and all of that. So I certainly felt bad. Here's Merab in the ambulance afterwards, though, with his buddy Aljo, where it felt like they were lightening the mood.
I am in the hospital with my brother Aljamain Sterling, and then my brother drinking his Funk Harbor rum. And I'm on the phone with my mother. Dedico, Twig, Amar Jobak, English Surat. Hi, get hooked on it. Can I tell you that I'm going to Khadam? Abba Kargat. While Peri Khutian said,
All right, a lot of Georgian in that one, but there was a caption too, being like, thanks for everyone for their support, and I'll be back. And
by the way, Merab did go to the post-fight party at the club. He did go back with Nina Drama to eat all those donuts. I don't know if anyone saw that video as well. So Merab took it in stride as he always does. Luke, let's close this discussion by talking about what should be next. Merab used his time in the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan to push for the idea of an immediate trilogy. Should that be the direction UFC goes? Or should they tell him to take some time off? Merab told me this week that he's got some trip planned where he's going to go train with Zuck, but he wanted to come back in March no matter what. I mean, look, it's hard to deny a guy that's won 14 in a row, and we were calling him the bantamweight GOAT. But I really want to see Umar, if he gets by Davis and Figueiredo in the next couple months, against Petr Yan. That's a fight we almost saw leading up to this. I would love to see that. What do you want next? What will happen next?
So the issue is we've got next month, we've got basically 2 bantamweight fights that might have a claim on the title. Now, that's a little crazy to say, BC, because I actually don't think that we have 2 bantamweight fights that have a claim on the title, but I have to admit that we probably will. Here's what I mean. First, you've got Umar versus Figgy. Now, what's interesting about that fight, BC, is it's on the prelims, which kind of tells you what they think about Umar a little bit here, maybe. That's the first one. But if Umar wins, BC, I think he's got a decent case for a fresh title shot. That's one. Then you have the other one, which is much more interesting to me, which is Sean O'Malley, at least as a weird attraction. Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Great fight. What I mean is, BC, can we really sit here and say that if Sean O'Malley, and I'm going to make something up, knocks out Song Yadong, he's not in the picture for a title? I'm not saying that he should be. I'm not saying I think, that's the best argument. I'm saying just look how they're booking title fights.
Look, to be fair, they're booking fights to make stars, which is kind of what we asked of them to do in this new era, right?
Sort of. I mean, you can do the Strikeforce thing a little bit where you give people misunderstand the Strikeforce model. The Strikeforce model is as follows. If there is a really deserving contender, they didn't really fuck with him too much. But what they did was they gave them gimmies in between, right? They'd give him a deserving guy, 2 deserving guys, and then the third one would be just a walk in the park. And it wasn't just for champions. It was for anyone with a big name. They would give them tune-up fights all the time, and this did wonders for them. It was an important thing. Pride did something similar. People look at Fedor's resume, they're like, okay, I know this guy, I know that guy. Who the fuck is this guy? This was done on purpose, and also in part to satisfy the Japanese market. But, that can be a thing. That's different than, we've got massively deserving contenders, which I'll come back to in bantamweight in a second. We're just going to ignore that. We're going to give guys title shots off of one win. I mean, again, Strikeforce might have done a little bit like that, but this feels a little more heavy-handed. It's more about giving guys gimmies in between hard fights rather than just ignoring the hard fight altogether. Point I want to make, though, is BC. Okay, you got O'Malley maybe, Umar maybe, but Merab is the consensus, I think, best bantamweight.
Zahabi. Ayman Zahabi's in this discussion, correct?
He's on the outside, but I don't think he's too far from it. Fair enough. But Merab, if you're going to give anyone a title rematch, or I should say a trilogy in this case, it would be someone like Merab. But here's what I'm going to say. This is a little different. In addition to mentioning these other 2 names, BC, what you also have here is a case where it was not a close fight, and it's already their second one. There's no controversy about this one. The guy just fucking lost. What I think they should do, BC, is give one of the 2 winners from UFC 324 a shot against Yan. Merab gets the winner of that.
How about Merab Zahabi and Umar, if he wins, gets Yan?
I don't get a lot. I don't hate it. I don't have a ton of interest in Merab Zahabi.
It'd be hard for me to get fired up about. Look, I'm not saying I'm supporting sort of the shameless matchmaking style that they're already employing for next year. I'm a CBS Paramount guy. I want them to use this new non-pay-per-view platform to build stars. Believe me, I'm not supporting all the choices. I don't like Diego Lopez in this spot on, again and again. But for O'Malley to go from 2 dominant losses against the champion, I get.
He's not my choice. He's not my. If Umar wins, it should be Umar.
Yeah, you're setting up a scenario where he would knock out Song Yadong, and I'm not saying that's not worth nothing, but yeah, I wouldn't love that. I'm also an Umar guy. I'm just going to say, I believe this guy is championship ready right now. I believe you could plug him into the title fight right now. Were you not surprised that they put Umar in another fight? I thought he was going to fight the winner of this fight regardless.
Bautista's hard to look good against, so for that reason, I'm not utterly shocked, but they're they're making him take a little bit of a longer road, right? I think that's fair to say.
All right. We'll see how they roll that out. But congratulations to Petr Yan.
No, we got to get Long Island. Like, how distraught were you? Long Island, as each round. First round I thought was pretty competitive, obviously, but after that, brother, the fight was gone.
It's crazy how the fight was scored, because even after round 1, I was like, damn, man, I kind of think Yan won that round. It was close, but I actually gave it to Yan, and then obviously the next 4 were very clearly Yan. So I thought it was 5-0 Yan. I didn't even, when I heard 48-47, I was like, oh shit, are we going to get some corrupt score in here? What do we got?
Dude, I don't know what DC was on, thinking that Merab was up 2-0.
People were complaining about DC's commentary. Now, I was doing the watch along, so it was hard for me to pay attention to it. What was so bad about it?
He just was kind of matter of fact that it should be 2-0 Merab. So whenever they were putting the journalist tweets up of people saying like 2-0 Yan, he was just like, that's crazy. Whereas there's a really strong argument for round 1 to be a Yan round. It could go either way. Yeah. I didn't think round 2 was all that close.
No,
but the other thing I want to say is too many voices in Merab's corner. Easy to point out now that he lost, but 3 different voices competing with each other in Merab's corner in between each round.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That was a lot. All right, let's go into topic number 2, which was Saturday's co-main event. Yeah, we didn't learn that much in the end, as Joshua Van, looking to become the second youngest champion in UFC history behind John Jones, accomplished the feat, but not in the way that we would have hoped or wanted here in a round 1 TKO win via injury, as after exchanging a very high-paced exchange for both fighters in that first minute, you had a very unusual ending as champion Alexandre Pantoja reached out his arm to catch himself on the fall and injured his elbow, his shoulder. There was a little bit of debate to that. Just 30 seconds into the fight, resulting in a title change. Very reminiscent, by the way, Luke, of when you and I were cage side for Bellator NYC and Michael Chandler lost his title to Brent Primus on that injured foot, where you're just like, why do the rules mean that the title has to change hands on there? Just my editorial.
I can tell you the answer.
There's
actually a very good reason for it. Why shouldn't it? Understand, he threw a head kick to Josh Van, who caught it, and then he tries to escape, and Van actually kind of releases him. And on the landing, he whatever happened there, he had the injury. That's fighting. Nobody fouled him. Sometimes you do a spinning kick and you twist your ankle. Sometimes you get your jaw broken by, you ran into his hip, or some kind of weird medical event. An injury happens just in the course of fighting itself, independent of someone, landing a knockout blow. That's part of fighting. The part where it becomes an issue is if it's from a foul. That's when you bring in the doctor, when you cause time, you get kicked in the balls, you get raked in the eyes, you break, whatever, the arm, elbow, whatever. That's just fighting. That's regular fighting.
I just feel like I know why you wouldn't change the rule, because then people could potentially, fake injuries and try to get out of fights in which they're losing. I just wish, how boxing has that rule pertaining to fouls, where if a foul happens before the first 4 rounds are completed, an accidental foul, the fight would go to it wouldn't go to the scorecards. It would be a no contest. I almost wish there was some sort of, whether it's a half round or a full first round, where if one of those, mysterious injuries happened, where you can cause an injury. I get that. I think we can all agree this was just bad luck. Either way, Joshua Van is the new champion, and he celebrated like one. So, Luke, while there's very little to glean or take away from the situation, because we just had 20 to 30 seconds of some fun exchanges, are we allowed to say at age 35 that Pantoja might never be the same after an injury like this? And for all we know, may not get back to the title level. I hate even asking you that, because I'd almost wish they pressed pause on the division until he was healthy, because this is such bad luck. But it is what it is, Luke.
I think it'd probably be a little premature to be like, oh, he'll never get back, especially if it's a dislocation. Now, even with a dislocation, a break can occur, or a tear of a ligament, some kind of connective tissue can happen as well. If that's the case, then BC, and then we've got some real quality of movement issues that are going to have an impact. If it's just a dislocation and there's no surgical intervention that's really required, I'm not saying that's a great injury, but that by itself, BC, should not be disqualifying as a way to consider him, not really eligible for a rematch or whatever, but to win, to be competitive. That would not tell me that. But there's obviously these other factors, BC. One is, does he heal it properly? Does he come back too quickly? Does he try to like reassert himself because he doesn't want Van out there with the title parading like he's somebody that in his view probably is not? There are ways in which that even if the injury itself is not so severe, accompanying factors after the fact can make it difficult for him to ever regain full function. I would just say, from what we know so far, which is a big caveat, but from what we know so far, I've not seen anything that tells me he can't get back there. But BC, this is the other part of the conversation, which is the guy's 35. I don't think he's too far from being 36. You know, the lighter you go, that becomes more and more of a death sentence. Is it possible that this is an injury that is a function of the fact that he's not 25, then he is 35, and that he's put his body through hell over the years to pursue this occupation? That is something that I kind of worry about. Like, is this by itself, BC, a disqualifying medical event? Maybe not. However, does it underline and highlight the fact that this guy is aging in front of us, and that even if he does have some glory days in front of him, that window is closing rapidly? I kind of wonder about that a little bit.
Yeah, I do. I do too. It reminds me, friend of the program, Rashad Evans, who I used to do a podcast with, and we would go back and do story time over his career. I always bring up, Luke, I think you remember this, when Rashad, after losing the title, losing to John Jones, came back in that comeback win over Chael Sonnen, kneeing him to the stomach and finishing him. He looked like he was ready to be champion again, like he had completely retooled, and then he suffered the type of injury that he was never the same from again. You just hope for Pantoja that doesn't happen, considering the run he had been on, the fact that in the past 2 years he had completely turned his legacy, reputation around by improving his game so much. But you can't control these things. They are what they are. Before we get into this whole hullaboo over Van's celebration, did you see that tweet from Dominic Cruz, who said that fighters should be allowed to continue even if their limbs are hanging off? I mean, this is the same great decorated champion who, by the way, I love his snarkiness, his, all that, who said, like, he should be allowed to fight to the death in the cage. He said, someone's going to die in MMA eventually. We should be allowed to do that. He also thinks Keith Peterson smells like cold cuts and cheap women. What do you make of that statement he put out?
Yeah, I mean, this is why it's regulated by the government. Fighters deserve to have a very, very important contribution to, I think, all of the rules, to the way in which they are governed by them, how they're paid. Like, their perspective here very much matters. But they're not the final arbiters of anything. Neither are we, but they're not. And this is why they're not. I cannot tell you how many fighters I know who I've talked to, who have told me stuff, mostly off the record, but not always, about some kind of medical risk that they're willing to endure, either to train for a fight or to even compete during it, or surgical intervention to allow them to compete in some kind of hobbled state. I mean, I've literally had guys talked about having their fingers removed. I mean, you can't imagine. This is why it's regulated by the government, because in addition to there being unscrupulous promoters, there are fighters who will absorb and accept and engage with a level of risk that is simply untenable. If this is going to be a practice that we allow to happen in society, there have to be very clear rules. If you have an orthopedic injury in the middle of the fight, BC, the fight is fucking over. It's over.
By the way, I thought, credit to Dom Cruz's new podcast. I thought the one he did with TJ Dillashaw, where they talked about the injury against Aljo with the shoulder, like, that was very good content. Check that out. And if Cruz thinks Peterson smells like that, he should meet Jed Meshew. I mean, we've done plenty of pre-games with that guy. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. All right.
Mad Dog 50-50 and butt sweat.
Yeah, indeed. First, let's get an injury update from the former champ Pantoja, if you can, Long Island Luke.
Hello, guys. That's what happened, accidents. When I go to the UFC today, I think I'm having my best shape of my life. When I see Joshua Van out the other side of the octagon, I believe I can finish him in the first round. That's what I try to do. Best camp of my life, best catch weight, best everything, I feel so comfortable in the octagon. That's my octagon. That's my belt. That's everything I did in my life, in my whole life to that moment, and Joshua just came and win this belt. I talked with my wife about that, like, it's not just about myself today. It's about Joshua Van, you know. Joshua Van, that's his destiny to win this belt tonight. And he just can win this belt with my injury today, you know. And I talk with God. God gives him the message. And I really believe in God and all the message. I pray a lot. And I want to work very hard. I work very hard all my life. And I'm going to work again. And I'm going to take my belt again, you know. I really appreciate all the message. Everybody know about myself. Everybody understand I'm a very respectful guy. I respect first my family, then everything, you know. I'm never gonna say bullshit about anyone. I just want to work very hard and bring my belt to my home again, you know. I appreciate everybody. Tomorrow, fly back to home. Monday, I'm start to follow my dream again. Thank you so much.
Dude, that's heartbreaking. I stand for pants, as Meshu would say. Luke, people think I don't wear them during strawweight fights. They're wrong. But seriously, the way that guy carries himself, a lot of love and respect. So, by the way, on the flip side, as much as I don't love seeing him lose his title under these circumstances, I don't love seeing Van win the title under these circumstances, even though it's not his fault to become the second youngest champion. He celebrated like none of it mattered. A lot of people took umbrage. We made sort of a fun Aljo Sterling joke, but Van, he don't care about the haters. In fact, he was so absolute about it. We dialed them for murder. We called up our friends over there at Cuervo for a little bit of shots fired, folks. Core Shots Fired is brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Here is Josh Van reacting to sort of the negative reaction to how happy and aggressively he celebrated this breakthrough moment.
Plan as champion.
I want to be the active champion for sure, but I'm taking this month off.
A month off, nice.
Month off, yes.
And I guess last thing for me would be, you know, what would you say to somebody that says, I can't count that guy as a real champion? That fight didn't really play out. Like, what would you say to him?
Fuck them. Yeah. If you do good, they will talk shit. And if you do bad, they will talk shit. So do what makes you happy, you know what I mean? So it don't matter what they think, man. I won.
Luke, in summation, fuck them, bro.
Yeah, in summation, mis pelotas están aquí.
I mean, is there any validity, amigo, to people criticizing him jumping on the cage, you know, doing all that whole beef, that whole routine?
Look, obviously it's going to look weird to the fans at home who were robbed of a great fight, who were probably very, hey, people who paid for pay-per-view, BC, it might have been the last one. I know there was some pirates, but there was a lot of people who paid, I'm sure, as well. And it was like, this is fucking annoying for that to happen. And then for a guy to go up there and he's pounding his chest like a gorilla and like he did something, I understand that this is going to piss people off. I sort of get it. At the same time, the guy's life has been nothing but a very difficult struggle, and it changed in the last year, culminating in this magic moment that probably to him feels like destiny, BC. If you put yourself in his shoes, like he just must feel like he's on top of the world. Let him have some celebration. He'll have to fight someone to keep it. We'll worry about it then, Indeed.
We've got Dana White talking about what will be next for this title, given everything that happened. Let's listen to the CEO.
The Tuesday answer as well. But, I mean, given the way that thing played out, if he's okay, do you run that one back right away? Do you see what he's doing first?
I don't think no matter what happens, listen, I'm no fucking doctor or anything, but I don't see him coming back anytime soon. I think that there would be a defense before he comes back. I think he's going to need some time. The healing process and sometimes, or most of the time, I would say ligaments are worse than a break. So he's got to come back from that, and then how long till he starts striking again and stuff like that. So, yeah, there'll probably be a defense before.
Last thing.
Well, look, it's going to take time for people to really see Van as the champion. Although one more thing on that, I will say, Van talks so much coming into this fight about what this what his success will mean to his country of Myanmar, that it would put it on the map in people's minds. And that's not a country that we talk about regularly, especially not in mixed martial arts. So I definitely agree with Van's posture from the standpoint of what he's saying, that the criticism is going to be there no matter what. So let me do me and enjoy my moment. But I'll also say this is a big ass moment for him, his extended family, his culture, his country. So I know he came to the U.S. as a teenager, grew up in Houston, but that means a lot in that regard. And I'll give him that. So
also don't forget Burmese Python, Ong La Nsang, the guy out of Extreme Couture.
Yeah,
I've met him a couple times. Real nice dude. He comes from, he calls himself the Burmese Python, but from Myanmar. So that little country is still got some, it's got some heavy hitters for sure.
Yeah, Myanmar. What was I saying? I don't know.
Well,
anyway,
it doesn't matter.
Luke, in terms of what's next, you've got the newcomer, the old comer. He's coming, Luke. Kyoji Horiguchi. You've got Tatsuro Taira, who had a breakthrough stoppage win over Brandon Moreno. You've got the Manel Kopp versus Brandon Royval contender fight next weekend. Who would you like to see next for Joshua Van?
I mean, in theory, a rematch, right? I mean, that seems like the most important one, but obviously that is going to be medically very difficult, perhaps improbable to pull off. I don't have a better answer than the winner of this week's main event. I don't know what it would be. No one's moving around. There's not, I mean, especially if Manel Kopp wins, like that's kind of the Royval fight was cool, BC, but I don't need to see it run back right away.
What do you make of Joe Rogan basically editorializing during the interview and saying that Taira should be next?
So that's an interesting one too, BC, because he looked awesome. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next topic, but I don't know. I mean, Long Island, where are you on this one? To me, it seems a little rushed to put Taira in there, especially when Horiguchi.
Let's go Gooch. Let's go Gooch.
Yeah, go Gooch. I'm not high on Taira either, just because he just lost to Royval, and I feel like Pantoja's probably out at least 6 months. And because Van is so active, just get him in there in 3 months against Horiguchi. Also, don't you think it's ironic Horiguchi called out Pantoja and then Pantoja ends up losing? He should have just called out Josh Van the whole time. Didn't even need to call out his teammate.
Yeah, Long
Island. Or BC, how about this?
Yeah.
Remember, Dana White said at the post-fight presser they were considering taking a show to Japan. Could you do Gooch, Taira, winner of that gets it, depending if they can make that in short order,
I do think if Kopp thoroughly beats Royval, then that could change the discussion because he has been on a run. You got to give Kopp that credit. Kopp Killer.
Sure.
Ice-T. What was the name of that band that Ice-T had?
Body Count.
Body Count. And also, do you notice how Long Island Luke's like, I'm not high on Taira. Dude's high as shit right now in general. Okay, let's give him that respect.
Who, me?
No, Luke Nocita, our guy. All right, Luke. So to close on this topic, by the way, two decorated top 5 pound for pound champions getting their titles flipped upside down, which makes an interesting scenario for the UFC. Valentina Shevchenko on her second reign at flyweight with 2 defenses on the second reign is the longest reigning UFC champion at the moment. Here's a graphic of some of that turnover. In one way, you expect it because the sport's crazy, but in another way, Luke, it's weird to see all the old guard just chopped down one by one.
Man, I mean, there's some of these you could have seen coming. You probably didn't think Bilal was going to end the year as champ, but the Yan one just didn't see coming. I mean, I don't know. There's just a bunch of these. You're like, wow, this is you're here one day, gone the next, brother. It is a very
and Pereira
sport.
Regained the title to his credit, and both Topuria and Makhachev moved up, so they won titles in new weight divisions. But
right,
I didn't necessarily see a lot of this happening. By the way, Chimaev is now saying he's going to fight one more at middleweight, then he's going up to 205. So it could continue, Luke, for all we know.
Yeah, which means Poatan's going to go to heavyweight. You know what I mean?
It's a rotating door. All right, before we get into the rest of the UFC 323 undercard, it's history lesson time. Professor Campbell's here to tell you that now's a good time to remember what? Where tequila's story truly began. Because in 1795, Cuervo invented tequila. And since then, all Cuervo's been doing is staying true to their roots. We're talking about the same family, the same land. Yes, that same passion. 230 years later, Can you believe it? Cuervo is still right here, and every pour, and every margarita, in every celebration, in every pregame preview on MK. So enjoy the tequila that started it all, Cuervo. The tequila that invented tequila, ProximoCuervo.com. Please drink responsibly. And Luke, Cuervo has been such a fantastic partner for us. I really want to shout him out over the past year, doing the pregame previews, checking out that Devil's Reserve. Shout out to the makers, the inventors of tequila themselves. I'm talking about Cuervo. All right. Thank you very much.
Damn right.
All right. Let's go on over to topic number 3 elsewhere on the UFC 323 main card. How about bantamweight prospect Peyton Talbot during the same year in which he had his balloon popped by veteran Raoni Barcelos, and a lot of talk about whether he was on his way to becoming more of a bust. What is this, some kind of bust? Yeah, it's very impressive. Or could he turn it around? He bounced back from the Barcelos loss with a big win, and he came out against Henry Cejudo. And I'll editorialize. He looked like the finished product, the absolute real deal. What did Peyton Talbot, who beat up Henry Cejudo in the Legends final fight, earning a unanimous decision, what did he ultimately prove to you, LT, about his upside after taking Cejudo to the woodshed, man, and putting it on him?
BC, if Josh Van is excluded from the category of breakthrough fighter of the year, I honestly might have to give it to Peyton Talbot. And that's a little bit crazy because I know there's some other guys who have had some great breakout years, but I actually feel like his loss almost sets the table for what has been so amazing. BC, he fought 3 times this year. He looked like shit against Raoni Barcelos, who we all recognize is also having a great year. So credit to him. But he looked kind of bad in that fight. It looked like he was unprepared for the moment. And I was kind of, excuse me. I want to thank my daughter for sneezing right into my mouth the other day. It's been a great couple of days since then. Anyway, he looked good against Felipe Lima in his rebound. In fact, he looked very good against Felipe Lima. And you're like, okay, we're definitely not in emergency territory. And I know what everyone's going to say. They're going to say, all right, but Henry was literally at the end. He was washed as shit. And that's true. However, what I'm going to point out is, number 1, BC, he got beaten everywhere. Number 2, he got taken down twice in the same round, and once with Henry's signature inside trip takedown. Henry has, in my judgment, or at least up to this point anyway, has had the best inside trip in all of MMA, and Peyton hit him with it. And then had composure at the end of the fight, BC, pointing down at the mat and exchanging with him in that place. Like, dude, he came alive this year. And I think he got a little bit of cold water splashed in his face by Barcelos in January, and it woke him up. And now look at him. How far he can go, I think, is certainly an important debate to have, and we're going to have it. But I'm not just hired because of the state of the win. I'm inspired by the speed of the development, and clearly he's got a fire under his ass that is motivating him, and look at the rewards of it. We are this was so much fun and so great to see a young prospect really take a big turn in his career.
So huge, because when this fight was announced and we all loved the matchmaking, we all said the same thing. I think Cejudo gets this done. I mean, I remember hearing him, plus 200 something, whatever the odds were. And I'm thinking, Cejudo still got enough game planning, mindset, IQ, all of that. But Talbot took it away looking like the next generation bantamweight. It reminded me of the moments leading into the eye pokes against Song Yadong, where I felt like Cejudo for the first time was just didn't have enough on his fastball, had to do too much feinting shenanigans just to get a shot off. Like he had taken that step behind. And while I thought Cejudo looked better this fight, the fact that Talbot looked great in every aspect, switching stances, kicking, punching, the wrestling. I mean, it was incredible. I give Henry a lot of credit for being willing to take this fight, for being willing to brawl to the end like the true warrior he is, despite, he's cringe as shit. We could argue he shouldn't have taken that much time off in his prime, all that stuff. But he handled himself like a real fighter. I even liked the exchange after the loss when he talked to Dana, sort of pleaded for the 50K, thanked Dana for giving him the opportunity for him and his family. They played the video package. It was all a nice moment, yet that was the subplot to the true story of Peyton Talbot climbing through an up and down year. And returning to looking like that guy, the future of this division. I mean, let's show the damage that he put on a true legend in Cejudo.
Dude.
Good Lord, Luke Thomas. Whoa.
Dude, he beat him up. He beat him up everywhere. There was nowhere. I mean, again, I thought Cejudo fought back with real spirit, and I think that's real. But in the end, like, what did he materially do to Peyton Talbot? Not much. Not much in the end. He got run over in that fight. Also, I do want to say this, BC. I we kill them when they don't do stuff like this, but when they get it right, it's worth saying. The promo package, it wasn't even a promo package, but like the thank you package at the end, the video package for Cejudo that they had ready, where they're showing all these highlights and he's climbing this hill the whole time. Dude, this was great. Fantastic. When they're ready for those kinds of things, they kill it. It was great.
They did. And I have loved the career of Henry Cejudo mostly because I never believed in him early on, and he won me over that time. And Luke, when you look back at everything he has accomplished, I mean, I'm not willing to say he's the, combat GOAT of all time, but to win the Olympic gold medal in wrestling, to make that transition to the sport, to upset Demetrius Johnson, even though I didn't like the scoring in that rematch. Hey, he got it done. He won the championship. He won a championship in a second division and probably saved 125. And since then, he's pretty much only sought the best fights he could possibly make. He damn near regained the bantamweight title against Aljo off of that long layoff. In your eyes, how should we remember what Cejudo gave to the sport?
One of the very best smaller weight fighters ever in company history. Somebody whose athletic pedigree from a previous composite sport and the unbelievable success they had there only made MMA look better, especially when he struggled at first. But then, of course, being triumphant also makes MMA look better. It's sort of like a yin and a yang kind of thing. And, one of these guys who, people have said, BC, like, oh, is he a what if? And I don't think that's, maybe you disagree. I just don't think that's quite right. Because if you win two titles, it's hard to say you underachieve. Was the idea that he was going to win?
Not a what if. Come on.
I don't know. Well, I mean, but he did leave during the middle of his prime for a big chunk. And let's be honest, BC, he never won when he came back. Yes. His career literally never recovered from that. It never, ever got back to the right moment. And so there is a story to be told about that, BC. But for me, easily one of the better, not the best, but certainly one of the better lower weight fighters we've ever had in the sport. One of the early champs as well, to a degree. And a credit to the sport of wrestling, if nothing else.
I give him ultimately the credit of being one of the smartest game planners I've ever seen. And that's what won me over. I didn't think he was all that great coming up. He got humbled by DJ that first time. When he won the second championship, and put himself at a very high level historically with the other, at that point, there wasn't many two division champions. I felt it was almost premature, and he had sort of figured out how to sidestep his way to becoming an all-time name. And then I really dialed into who he really was and watched how smart. And a lot of that, look, I give credit to the bedazzled captain, our guy who was in the cage afterwards, Luke, Coach Eric, right? What's his last name?
Yeah, Albarracin.
Albarracin, our guy. Shout out to him. But seriously, Henry evolved. It took him time, but he evolved into one of the smartest fighters, game planning wise, well-roundedness. And as we saw on Saturday, when he needs to bite down, he'll get it for you. Like when he outslugged Joseph Benavidez in one of his early UFC fights, fight of the year campaign. Fantastic stuff right there from Henry Cejudo. But shout out to Peyton Talbot. Let's see the takedown celebration pick. This made the rounds on Twitter. The huge smile, the tongue out. Who would have thought that he would have done exactly what you said, reverse that trip into a position where, he had Cejudo in control, although they did point out on the broadcast that Cejudo isn't active enough when he's on the bottom there, but that was surprising to see, Luke.
Yeah, celebrating this way, and he got another one, like a hard blast double as well. And the fact that it looks homoerotic, BC, is just probably icing on the cake for Talbot relative to Cejudo. But no, it's incredible, dude. I mean, that's what I mean, man. He beat him literally everywhere. The fact that Henry survived is a credit to his fighting spirit, but that's the only thing that was saving him in that fight. And his skills weren't getting the job done anymore.
Let's hear from Peyton Talbot after this truly breakthrough win. This is how aging names should hand it off, right? Not Anderson Silva against Derek Brunson. This is the type of fight. Let's hear from Talbot.
I thought I did pretty good. I need to watch it back as always, but to take down a former Olympic champion twice is pretty major, especially with his bread and butter. So it's surreal, pretty cool, putting down old Yeller and retiring a GOAT like that.
Your striking looked fantastic as well, but is it the 2 takedowns that you're going to take the most pride in tonight?
I need to rewatch the striking. I felt like I was a little sloppy. I was having a little too much fun, but
yeah. You certainly had him hurt a number of times. Were you surprised at just how durable it was? Because it looked like there were a couple times where he was going to break and he just kind of refused to go away.
yeah, Henry's tough, man. I think he only got finished once by Demetrius, right? Yeah. So I knew he was going to be pretty tough to finish. I knew it was probably going to be late in the fight if I did get one. But I was hitting him really hard, man. Like, that's the hardest. That's up there on how hard I've hit people. And I saw the decision in him when he was like, I could go out right now or I could fight through this, and made the decision to fight through it.
Nice. Will you seek his advice, in the future and train with him? And
yeah, he's going to make a phenomenal coach. Wherever he moves through this, if he chooses to stay in it and coach a little bit, he's going to be phenomenal at it. So, yeah, I'd go and seek his knowledge.
Nice. Last thing for me, there's a point where it looked like you were going to be fast-tracked, that you had the setback, but you looked amazing, and this is a signature win. So where do you see your career progressing at this point? I mean, I know you said you're learning and getting better and improving, but do you hey, throw me in the rankings, throw me in the top now, or is it still just a steady progression for you at your young age?
I don't think I have a choice. I think I'm going to have a number by my name now either way. But, this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to be in the top 10 and just swimming with the Sharks. So that's kind of what I wanted out of this. And I was super calm all week because I felt at peace with that, that if I did my job in the cage, then I would have a number by my name at the end of this. So, yeah, I'm at peace with that, and that's what I've wanted from the get-go. I'm not super fixated on the belt. I just want to put on banger fights and fight the toughest guys.
Luke, he just turned 27 years old. I'm not trying to say he should fight for the title next, but this is a great step forward. If he's looking for a ranked guy, maybe somebody in the back end of the 10 to 15, are we thinking like a Rob Font, Marcus McGee? What is the best type of
Yeah. This is where he's at. Should be either in the top 10 or pretty close to it. Long Island Luke is saying Chito Vera. That seems a little. I don't know if
Cejudo's number 10 right now, so Peyton's going to be number 10.
I know that the numbers make sense. I'm saying
Chito's 8 coming off a couple losses. I feel like I think he's 8. I don't have it in front.
They did push him. Him getting the Cejudo fight on the main card is a push.
Yeah,
he got the push.
Maybe Long Island's right. Maybe that's a good fight for him. And again, it's not that it's a bad fight for us. I'm saying it's a good fight for him. That's a different question. But yeah, maybe that is. Maybe that it is. I will have to see. But certainly that's the company that he's in now. BC. We'll see if we can go from there.
Let's move down to the flyweight division. Two-time champion Brandon Moreno entered this fight against Tatsuro Taira as a betting underdog, and we were very surprised by that. Boy, was I surprised to see the way the fight ultimately went, as the Sharps knew what they were talking about. Taira is so happy for sure, and he has reason to be, stopping Moreno for the first time in the great Mexican former champion's career, and really making a statement. 2 consecutive wins after that main event brawl against Brandon Royval, in which Taira lost, and although he fought well at times, he looked incomplete in that fight. 2 fights later, this is a different story. Luke, was this fight more about Taira surging, or did you see elements of Moreno showing that the beginning of the end is here?
So I will tell you, Moreno's not old, but he might be in dog years. First of all, Taira looked better physically than I've ever seen him. He's always obviously been great at finding, lead positions, particularly the back in grappling. So that part was not new. But BC, I know I'm doing this a lot, but I really want to do it one more time because I haven't talked to him yet. Long Island, let me ask you a question. Did Taira look physically more imposing than he had in the past, and then operate that way? And then 2, is it my imagination, or did it look like Moreno wasn't taking the punches as well as he normally does?
I got to be honest, I didn't notice either of those things that much. I just remember round one, Moreno off his back almost had that triangle, and I thought he was going to get that. And then before I know it, the fight's over. I didn't think it was a weird stoppage. Did you guys think it was a weird stoppage?
A little quick for the.
I thought it was a little. Not. I didn't think it was crazy early. I thought it was a little early.
Exactly. It was almost just like in a matter of moments. Oh shit, the fight's over, and then I don't. It just felt like anticlimactic. I don't know. Maybe I bet on Moreno, so that's probably why. But
yeah. Dude, I don't know. He looked a little like he couldn't take punches that well. Not so much in the standing, but definitely like from the back when Tyra was unloading on him, he wasn't scrambling with the same kind of force that you saw him, at least in my view, get in the Figueiredo fight. Now, part of that is the pinning pressure that Tyra was applying. Okay, but even then, it just seemed like he was a little bit, dare I say, manhandled. You know what I mean? It kind of looked like he manhandled him. Dude, the odds makers we were all like, oh, these are crazy odds. No, they weren't. They were right on the money, you know?
Yeah, those guys tend to know what they're doing to protect the house, it turns out. But you look, Tyra was in insanely great shape as well. He looked like he was ready to go 5 hard rounds, even though this was a 3-round fight. So breakthrough performance for him. I'm not ready yet for him at the title level. I think he needs one more. I'd rather have Horiguchi or the winner of Royval Kopp. And maybe, I don't know, does Royval re-enter the title picture because Pantoja, who beat him twice, is now out as champion? Or is it the fact that Royval lost to Yan or to Van earlier this year? Would that disqualify him? Or would you say, well, that was a fight of the year contender where, you know, Royval was in it until the final 30 seconds when he got knocked down? How do you review Royval's title chances if he gets by Kopp?
Pretty good if Van is there because you can run that one back. They may not want to because they just saw it, but they could still do it. I mean, they're definitely not better with Pantoja at the top, right? At least with Van, you got one more shot at it. So he has to feel like he's got a little bit of a boost as a consequence.
And Luke, in the pay-per-view opener in the light heavyweight division, it was some sisters kissing in the end with the draw, a tie, as an aging and injured Jan Blachowicz was unable to ultimately get past Bogdan Guskov. You're telling me you are not entertained. What does this mean for the former champion Jan moving forward?
I mean, dude, they were literally saying on the broadcast that he can't lift weights much anymore in camp because of his shoulder injury. And I'm like, brother, if your shoulder can't tolerate even moderate weight training, your time's almost up. You know, like your time's almost up. You can't be that physically infirm and expect to be able to commit physically to the fight itself when you need to, if you have that kind of self-imposed handicap as a consequence. Like it doesn't work. And the fact that he can't really seem to get right. BC, you can look at his fights that he's had this terrible streak on, and you could say he should have beaten Poatan. He should have beaten Olberg. And maybe, like, and when I say should have, I mean like everything should have gone his way, you know? But they just didn't. And now they're accumulating, and now his body is failing, and now he's 42. It's like he's not getting beat up in these fights, BC. He's not getting his ass whipped, you know? That's not really what's happening, but I think his best days are very inarguably behind him. If he's trying to go for another title run, he's wasting his time.
And unfortunately for the division, if this fight was set up potentially to sort of pass the torch to Guskov as a new contender, the good news is he's 4-0-1 now since losing his UFC debut to Volkan Ozdemir. The bad news is he didn't look like a title contender in the performance. Is that too harsh to say? I mean,
he didn't. Light heavyweight sucks ass.
That's a true fact. Yeah. I want all the light heavyweights to just go up to heavyweight anyway. We'll just pause the division right now.
Yeah, just get rid of it and have them fight the big old fat fucks.
All right. Before we get into the rest of the UFC 323 card, along with the reaction to the recent updates as the Paramount schedule continues to take shape for 26, I want to tell you something. UFC's not just hot. The NBA season right now is rolling. In fact, picture it rolling in your 500 bends. And DraftKings' newest game, Pick6, is the easiest way to play for your shot at big wins. NBA stars are lighting it up Now their numbers aren't just highlights. They're your shot to cash in if you know what you're talking about. Here's how it works. You're just going to pick more or less on 2 or more player stats, total points, rebounds, steals, whatever you're going to pick. Know what you're talking about, and the better your picks are, the bigger your payout's going to be. So nail your picks tonight. Don't just win, stack up those payouts. New DraftKings customers, get this. They're going to get $50 in Pick6 credits with just a single $5 entry on your first pick. Ain't that right, Luke Thomas?
Yes, that is indeed correct. So, as BC kind of indicated, the crown is going to be yours with DraftKings Pick6. New customers are going to get $50, as BC indicated, in Pick6 credits with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. So don't just watch basketball. Pick, play, cash in. Download the DraftKings Pick6 app now and use code COMBAT. That's COMBAT with a K. Play just $5 and get 50 in Pick6 credits. Make the call. Ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick6 credits that expire in 14 days. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
Yeah, ride the upside or ride the lightning. Luke, did you see Caleb Presley's Sunday conversation on Barstool with Dana White, where he was pitching a fight of John Jones versus Conor McGregor, pound for pound, or for the Euro fans, kilo for kilo?
I did not. That's a very funny show, but I try not to listen to Dana White if I don't have to. You know what I'm saying?
There we go. Okay, let's go to topic number 4 on the prelims of UFC 323. There were 7 finishes, 5 by KO, TKO, 2 by submission. Luke Thomas, pick off the menu. Your choice. What was the most impressive or maybe even most important victory from the prelims, which featured a ton of names on Saturday night?
All right. Got to give big shouts. Big shouts. I mean, it's not the very best of MMA, but it's some ways the very best of MMA. I'm sure I'm saying these names wrong. Iwo Baranevsky, I don't know how you say his name, the Polish gentleman, versus Ibo Aslan. 90 seconds, BC, of the crack pipe. That's what that was.
Yes.
That was Hunter Biden coming over with a big old rock, and he was like, I cooked up this rock. Let's smoke this shit. And I was like,
a laptop
yeah, let's do
that the Russians gave him, Luke. You know what I mean?
Probably so. That was just 90 seconds on the hit of the crack pipe. It was phenomenal. But they were not the only ones that were offering you something like that. As Chris Duncan defeating Terrence McKinney with the Anaconda about halfway into the first round.
Get got. It's the Terrence McKinney way, right?
That's it. Again, we called him the Evil Knievel of MMA, brother. He's shot out of a cannon. Either you're ready for it or you're not. That's the way he fights. He's just guaranteed excitement. But I have to say, BC, there's a bunch of directions you can go. I think most people are going to spotlight Macy Barber having a pretty great performance against Karine Silva.
I was moved.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go then, because she got kicked twice while she was down. What moved you about it?
21 months away, riding a 6-fight win streak. We'd sort of been waiting for her through scheduled fights against Blanchfield, Namajunas that never took place. She had a seizure and fainted trying to cut weight last time. She's had undiagnosed issues, injuries, and to put it all together against a tough opponent in Karine Silva and get that type of victory. She was emotional afterwards. Luke, I was starting to believe she was never going to be the same. I think a lot of us were. So to see her score this victory and slay those demons, it felt good. All right. I've never been a huge fan of her, shtick or whatever, but she's proving to be a legitimate fighter in this division. I had wondered what all that time off and all those physical setbacks would do. Did you not get the feeling like she's all the way back?
She's not all the way back until she can put together a streak. And I mean, consistent activity, right? Where we're not having these derailed episodes. And not that I'm blaming her. I'm just saying that's what has to happen. But this certainly was, what could you call it, BC? A step in the right direction, a big one. It was really great to see. I got to go Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner retires from the sport, looks like he's completely done with it, comes back. Okay, you're going to say he's fighting a washed Barboza. He is. But he looked awesome doing it. He found his range immediately. He had vicious weapons. He beat the shit out of Barboza very quickly. without mercy, which is exactly what you want in the sport, but with technical precision. That was such a big, you're talking about triumphant returns, BC. That was a great one itself. Also, not for nothing, Mansour Abdul-Malik. Okay, Antonio Tricoli might be one of the worst fighters in UFC history. I'm not even doing a bit with that. Like, that might be real.
That's the champion's ex-boyfriend you're talking about, all right?
Yeah, fair enough. But Mansour Abdul-Malik, who wrestled, I think, at the University of Maryland, smoked him. Yeah. So that was fun to see as well. But dude, you can go Manuel Torres in the main. Long Island Luke, your standout on the prelim card.
I mean, now that you named every fight, I got Iwo versus Ebo is the clear giveaway here. That was the best round of the year, and it was only 90 seconds. What's the only fight we didn't mention? Bruno Ferreira, Marvin Vettori was probably the worst fight on the prelims, but it was actually still fun.
The dude that killed Matt Frivola? Yeah.
Yeah, he also killed, he's 2-0 against Sarah Longo, beat Nazim Sadikov too. I mean, yeah. Dude, the prelims were fun as hell. The last two fights on the main, for me, from fandom standpoint, just killed it for me. But the card was really fun up until that point, for me.
Is Grant Dawson done being relevant? I mean, that was a tough loss.
That was a bad one. I mean, his problem is he's obviously great at grappling. He's great from the back. He can put you through the cycle, but the parts of the game leading up to that just are not where they need to be to win consistently at a high level in the sport. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. He seems like a great guy, but it's tough. It's tough. And also Torres had a good game plan, right? They were talking about on the broadcast, real patient, took his time. And when it was time to go, boxed him up.
I like the depth on this card. I like the excitement early on. Some stories we talked about. We do have some sound from Macy Barber here about the comeback journey, and I hope she gets a huge fight off of this. Let's hear it.
Congratulations on the win, but I guess how can you put into words what you're feeling right now after 21 months of not being able to do this?
I don't know if I have a lot of words. Honestly, it's been so long. I don't know if there's a lot of words to put into that much time.
A lot of fans and even media were saying, the second Macy even enters the octagon, that's the win. Were you viewing it that way too, or were you just viewing this as like, all right, we're past that part, like I'm just here to fight and do what I like again?
Damn, now you made me cry. Yeah, I think that was the win. I think that was exactly what I think that's exactly how I kind of felt, even in the interview with Joe, I was like, I'm just really happy to be here. I'm just really blessed to just walk out, do what I love. I mean, yes, when I was walking out, I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is a job that I have. There's another woman standing in front of me, and I have a goal and a dream, that I am chasing, and she's in my way. There's nothing that is going to get in the way of that, but at the same time, there is a girl inside of me that just loves to go in there and chase a dream too,
Good stuff there from Macy Barber. By the way, Jose Young's in the same 2-week period making me rage quit and making women cry. This guy's just on a run right now. It's just an all-timer of a run. Luke, we've got a bunch of announcements to go through as the UFC was busy with one of those seasonal press conferences on Friday, along with continuing to fill out this schedule for the new era, which begins January 24th with the UFC 324 pay-per-view. Before we do that, though, Dana, finally met with the media. He didn't host any of these press conferences during the week. He was there for the post-fight press conference, so he was pressed on some important items, everything from the Ali Act to what have you. One of those items was the fallout for Arman Tsarukyan. As we already know and have broken down, it will be an interim lightweight title fight kicking off the main event of the first pay-per-view of the UFC Paramount era, as Ilia Topuria steps away with personal issues. Paddy versus Justin Gaethje. So now, what does that mean for Arman? Is he still persona non grata with the company? Here's Dana talking about it.
Arman Tsarukyan, obviously the odd man out now. We expect Ilia to be unifying against the interim title winner, which would make a long runway for his
I wouldn't say that he's the odd man out. He had an opportunity, and you guys know how that played out, and he's gonna have to work his way back. I don't give a shit what the number says. He's gonna have to work his way back. There's just too much goes into this for those type of things to happen. We had a little We were talking back in my room tonight, and we were talking about all the crazy shit that's happened over the last 20-something years. But you can't do that. You can't get the opportunity, and then it can't end that way. So he's got to work his way back.
Luke, I don't like that at all.
Can I just say something? I was on that hearing on Capitol Hill, and I watched all of the accompanying media that Nick Khan did, whether it was on with Max Kellerman on the pro Saudi boxing show, or whether it was pro corporate monopoly Pat McAfee show, whatever, where they're just they'll say anything for $1, right? I mean, I'm talking about Max and Pat McAfee. And then Nick Khan gets on these shows and is absolutely explicit that the aim of Zuffa Boxing is to have, and this is his words, for example, on the Pat McAfee show, the champion's going to fight the number 1 contender. If the number 1 contender is not ready, he'll fight the number 2 contender, just like it is in UFC. Lawrence Epstein, who is the chief operating officer of the UFC, said something virtually identical on Capitol Hill in some of the remarks that he gave. And then Dana White goes out there and says the exact contradictory, complete and unambiguous opposite of that he just doesn't care about the rankings. They will literally say anything to any audience about this as long as it is either satisfying some demand or meeting some other need. But their story about what they're planned to do is, at a bare minimum, inconsistent. It is fucking crazy to me that all last week, the story from every executive in that company was the exact opposite of this. Insane.
Yeah, it's indefensible, especially with the Volk versus Diego Lopez rematch. That'll be UFC 325 the week after, literally the weekend after 324. So we'll get back-to-back PLEs in the new era. But I agree with you. It feels petty. I mean, look, was it because UFC 311 was at that Clippers arena and it was supposed to be this like very big deal? I don't know who famous was supposed to be there cage side, in terms of like, did that let him and the company down that Saryukin pulled out? I mean, people have done that before. Famously, Amanda Nunes couldn't make weight for the initially scheduled Shevchenko rematch, and Dana said she'd never headline again. And, she won back that reputation. But is this just you pulled out of the wrong card at the wrong time? Or is it even deeper? Does it have to play into the fact that Saryukin isn't motivated by the need for money, does it make it a tougher negotiation? I mean, what is like the deeper transgression? Is it just you had a title fight and you didn't make it to the cage? Is that it?
So that's the interesting part to me, BC. I was talking about this with Long Island Luke before the show. If it's that he had a late injury due to some kind of accident from the day before fight prep or 2 days before, whatever it was, why would they punish him so severely?
Like Chimaev did not get punished or talked bad about at all for missing weight by 7 pounds against Nate.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you go after him? I understand that they would be pissed that something fell apart at the last minute for them, and that maybe they thought he was a little bit reckless about it. Because remember, he did punch a fan one time, and he headbutted Dan Hooker. He's done some
fan thing. The punch the fan thing is a thing. That's a thing. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he's done some boneheaded, stupid shit, but he lost on that opportunity. He had to make weight for one fight, and then he just headlined the Qatar fight against Dan Hooker. My question is, if you're mad at him, cool. What is the punishment? Because just sidelining him outside of the rankings makes every single thing you are telling lawmakers a total lie. So which is it? Which is it? I asked this after the Qatar thing, BC. If we're mad at him, okay, we're mad at him. When is the punishment over? What does that look like? Set the map for me. Because if it's just he suffered a freak injury, late, while that is unfortunate, the level of punishment here just seems to be onerous relative to that. Is there more to the story that we do not know? That's the part I'm trying to figure out.
The way that he handled it, do they not believe that he had any physical issues? Again, I don't know if I'm like Was that a certain close-up card where they were going to have like the Paramount execs cage? I don't know. I'm thinking like, what was it that made him so angry? Either way, Saryukian out of the mix for a bit. We did get at that seasonal press conference, both Patty and Gaethje saying that they thought each of them thought they were fighting Ilya basically up until the announcement was made that they would instead be fighting each other. So it did feel like Saryukian, despite that big win against Hooker, despite the call out afterwards where he was ready to turn around on 2 months, that he was never in that equation. So that won't happen. We do know, though, as they filled out more of the 324 card and now the main event of the UFC 326 card, because 325 will be Volk versus Lopez. But how about all the way into March for UFC 326 in Las Vegas, March 7th, a rematch for the BMF title, Charles Do Bronx Oliveira against the current belt holder, Max Holloway. Luke, I popped for this. I'm down for it. I love that every once in a while we can have a pay-per-view main event that doesn't necessarily need to be a traditional title fight. That could be just two great names that you want to see against each other, and in this case against each other again, because the first one had that weird injury ending so long ago. I did see some people upset at it, not loving it. Where do you fall on this? I'm more than fine with this.
I'm fine with this. Yeah, this is totally fine. Everyone's going to say, oh, the title's made up. All the titles are made up. I mean, some are more clearly defined than other ones, but this is a great fight. It's a great rematch. Especially we all know, hey, everyone wants that White House card to be big. Well, if you want that fight at the White House BC to be big, you got to make some sacrifices on events before and after. Now, listen, we should actually talk about that for just a second, BC, because it is relevant. I don't think it's necessarily political to say that the President of the United States says a lot of things, and sometimes they are true and sometimes they are not. He said that today or yesterday, BC, that he's expecting 8 or 9 fights that are title fights at the White House card. Which, if you do the math, would be all the men's divisions and 1 or 2 of the women's divisions. Now, that sounds like he's got that seems like a lot, right? I don't know if that's correct. That would just kill your schedule on either side of these, and they've got 43 events to deliver. That being said, you're probably going to get 3, maybe 4 title fights. Hell, maybe even 5, right? You could potentially get a whole main card of them, which means BMF fights are going to have to be headliners to make that kind of thing possible. So my response to fans would be just, make sure you understand what you want. If you all want a big White House card that's a grand, festival, and given what the president is potentially saying about it, you're going to have to make some sacrifices on the front and back end.
Yeah, I like the fights that they've added up and down to UFC 324 to make that first opening card even deeper. I think it's going to hit hard. Let's look at what 325 got announced below that Volk versus Lopez. Wow, quick turnaround. Dan Hooker in what can only be a banger. That. Yeah, I don't love it either against Benoit Saint Denis. We'll talk about that in a second. You've got Fiziev against Mauricio Hufi, who needs to come back with a big performance. This should be sloppy and fun at heavyweight. Tuivasa against what's Talisman Teixeira, and then Jimmy Crute, Dustin Jacoby, and the new Australian guy. What is it? Quinn Salkill?
Yeah, Quillen Salkill versus Rong Zhu.
So there's some bangers on this one, but Luke, I agree with you. It feels too much too soon for Hooker, who was just stopped by Arman Tsarukyan and kind of dominated. What gives here?
I hate this. I mean, I don't hate the fight as such, right? It's Dan Hooker, BSD. Okay, well, that's violence. That's going to be great. Dude, Dan Hooker just got the shit beaten out of him. His face was all fucked up. How is he back in camp for this kind of a fight? That's not that far from now. Like, I don't love that. I don't love that it's so quick on the turnaround. It's not the quickest turnaround I've ever seen, but remember, that Edson Barboza fight, there was controversy after Hooker's Edson Barboza fight because of how much damage he took, and then the ref didn't intervene. Daniel Cormier was yelling at the ref essentially on the broadcast itself, quite rightly in my judgment. Like, the dude has taken a metric ton of abuse. I don't love the turnaround here, to be honest with you, and it makes BSD's chances even greater.
Yeah, but that Fiziev Hufi fight bangs. I like a lot of the supporting fights. February, there will be, I believe, 3 UFC Fight Night cards. No official PLE/pay-per-view because they're going back-to-back pay-per-view weekends to kick off the new Paramount era. But one of those has a very good middleweight main event. I think we have a graphic to support it here, as Fluffy Hernandez, who had to pull out of that RDR number one contender fight, will come back quickly here against former champion Sean Strickland. Luke Thomas, this division just recently was very bottlenecked, but do you feel like this could be a number one contender fight?
I think it has to be. I mean, I guess Imavov is the guy, but dude, the winner of this, I mean, even Chimaev was saying, well, he's Dagestani, I'm Chechen, and I'll fight him if I have to. But, you know, I've got a lot of respect for him, and it could cause a lot of tension and make things weird. It was essentially what he was saying. He doesn't want to, so I don't know what the UFC is going to do about that. But if they want, they can just slot the winner of this one in, BC, especially if it's Strickland. He can talk a gang of shit, you know. But at the same time, Fluffy's also a great fight. So, like, I feel like they're, you know, this fight is a good fight. Would I rather have seen Fluffy? Actually, I'll tell you what, BC, given the state that RDR was in, I guess I really wouldn't have rather seen that. I'm glad I get this one. You're going to get Hernandez against ready to go, maybe past prime, but a ready to go Sean Strickland, who's got good takedown defense and usually pretty great cardio. This is a fun ass fight. That's a good fight, and that the winner of that one will be very much deserving of a big opportunity from that.
And what city will that take place in? Because Sean Strickland's Houston. Okay, he originally said he turned down a chance to fight Fluffy in Australia, so they're going to fight in Houston instead. Very good main event. Need to see Fluffy back and healthy and see whether he's ready to climb that ladder. And we'll see how long Chimaev stays atop this division as he's flirting with a move to 205. Let's go to topic number 5. It's boxing. It was a pay-per-view, PBC Prime Video in San Antonio over the weekend. Your boy B Sizzle on the call. And in the main event, the two gentlemen, the only two in boxing who have taken Tank Davis to the 12-round limit and both performed very well against him, fought one another as Tank continues to sit out with personal issues, although the result of this fight did seem to tease a comeback pretty soon. In the end, Lamont Roach Jr. moved up to a new weight class for the third time in 3 fights here. Gave up his 130-pound title, took on Isaac Pitbull Cruz, the Mexican star, at 140. And by the way, Luke, you want to talk about Pitbull being in line to take the baton from Canelo as the next most beloved Mexican star. That arena, 10,000 people inside where the NBA Spurs play, dude, that thing was electric. Like, you couldn't hear yourself think after he scored a third-round knockdown. But despite knocking Roach down for the first time in Lamont's career, the second half of the fight was much different. Lamont operated within Pitbull Cruz's preferred phone booth style and area and actually made the great Pitbull back up and circle away. In the end, however, I had scored the fight 8 rounds to 4 in favor of Roach. The judges saw it differently. One judge scoring it by 5 points for Pitbull. 2 judges scoring it even, 113-113. Pitbull was docked a point in round 8 for holding. He would go on to blame the draw on the referee afterwards. Luke, I do have to believe, though, the bigger story here is for Roach, who in a different reality could be your fighter of the year in 2025 by doing what he did to Tank, doing what he did to Pitbull Cruz, making him back up out of his A game. Yet, can we run the tweet here from Dan Canobio? Over 24 rounds against 2 of the best fighters in these divisions, Lamont Roach did not get a single scorecard in his favor over 2 fights. He only has 2 draws to show for it. Luke, what does this say about Roach and what could have been his breakout year that, as good as we thought he fought, the judges still in the end didn't think he did enough?
Man, this one was heartbreaking. Shouts to Lamont Roach, who, as you indicated, overcame a 3rd-round knockdown and I thought dominated down the stretch, except for the 12th round, BC. I thought Pitbull probably did enough to take the 12th round. But I thought he got thoroughly outboxed, certainly in the second half of that fight, you know, and maybe the middle parts too. But BC, I kind of go back to the same problem. It's like, okay, is Lamont Roach good enough to be at 140 and give guys up their problems? Clearly. Is he good enough to give guys problems at 135? Again, he should have won that one outright because Tank took the knee. I mean, if for no other reason, he got jobbed there. But, like, I'm just not convinced these are places he should be in right now. I mean, I understand he's chasing big fights and big names and big opportunities, and he's done that. But it's come with, you can say unfair, but mixed results. It's come with, again, we can have a conversation about boxing judging. We can have a conversation about boxing officiating, particularly as related to the Tank fight. But at the same time, he just seems like at 130, and maybe you think Shakur would beat him. Maybe you think Shaki Foster would beat him at 130, BC, who also had a great performance on that main card. Maybe that's the case, but I just feel like those are fights where he's going to be not up against some of the circumstances where he doesn't have big power. He is a slickster. He can get the job done, but, not physically completely outmatched, but not physically maximized, BC. I think that's the kind of thing that's holding it up. It's not a question of skill. It's definitely not a question of will, but it might be a question of, how the sturdiness of what he's got to offer at these weight classes. You were ringside, so I'd be more curious to hear what you have to say.
I do slightly disagree with that. I mean, look, I rewatched the Tank fight, which I also called, a lot heading into this rematch. And I'll say each time I watched it, I was more and more impressed with what Roach did, because Tank came back in those middle rounds in 5 and 6 and put it on him and looked like he was on his way to doing something big. And Roach just stopped it. He stood in the middle. He took a big shot from Tank, countered with a bigger one that wobbled him, and they actually went at it for a few rounds after that. But in hindsight to that decision, was he screwed by the no knockdown call? 100%. But there were so many close rounds in which neither man, either Tank or Roach, threw a lot of punches, where I think, and we were saying that during the broadcast back in March, it felt like both fighters were taking a gamble that the judges would prefer what they were doing when there were like single digit lands and they were playing a lot of chess except for those exciting rounds. I think it was different in the rematch. And I know a lot of fighters pick Cruz. I was talking to Steven Espinoza. He had thought Cruz won, but he was in the crowd, and Cruz had such a crowd advantage there in San Antonio that anytime he did anything, they were going nuts. So you knew it had the potential to be a close fight. But you also had a lot of people predicting that Roach was going to box from the outside against Cruz to try to deal with that pressure. And instead, he parked right in front of him. And although he got knocked down for the first time in his career, dude, when he surged back in those middle rounds, I cannot believe he turned Pitbull into a boxer. He made him circle away. He made him do a lot of things that we've never seen him have to do before, even against Tank Davis. And now we find out that Roach broke his hand in round 5 in this fight and still put on that performance down the stretch. Remember, when Pitbull on late notice after they pulled Roley gave that performance against Tank where he lost basically 115, 113 on 2 of the 3 cards, it was said that for as good as he fought, Tank injured his hand halfway through, and if they had, rematched it, it would look differently. Roach did the same thing, and I thought he won comfortably. Now, the official score, Larry Hazard had it close the whole way and had it just barely for Roach in the end. I'm not upset for anyone that had Cruz closer, because the first half of the fight had some very close rounds where even from a CompuBox standpoint, it was even. But in totality, when you look at those stats, it was all Roach. And I think when you add up the rounds, Roach did everything you would have wanted, in my opinion. He didn't rely on the boxing. He stood in there, landed the bigger shots, backed Pitbull up. And I don't know if it's just bad luck or if it's the fact that he's facing a very popular fighter in Texas, or maybe it's just Texas, which is renowned for having such a horrible commission, one that you can't rely upon. You just have to feel bad for him. Like he said in the post-fight interview, what the hell do I have to do ultimately to get this done? Let's hear from Lamont Roach, and then we can react to this. Here's him at the press conference after the fight.
Antonio, thank you very much to all the fans. Thank you to the media as we welcome up one half of our main event of the evening. The fight ended in a draw. He fought his heart out and again showed the true champion that he truly is. Ladies and gentlemen, Lamont Roach Jr. Give him a round of applause. Lamont, less than an hour removed from your fight. What's going through your mind?
Man, I hope everybody in here enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, obviously I proved that I'll fight anyone. Again, this is not my natural weight. And I moved up again and fought a tough competitor and Isaac Cruz. But 2 times in a row, it's crazy. I can't fight my opponent and fight the judges. It's something we got to do about it. I think I won, and I think I definitely outboxed them. All I need is an even playing field. That's all. I'm going to come out there and show my skills. I'm going to show my grit, my will, everything else. And not to mention, I think I broke my hand in like the 5th round or something like that. So.
If we have questions for Lamont, Roach, raise your hand.
Look, here's what I have to say. At 130, where he was a title holder, he beat Hector Luis Garcia by knocking him down in the final round. He had one title defense. I thought he was a good fighter, never looked great. He moved up to 35, was clearly the bigger fighter against Tank and gave Tank the hardest fight of his life, then moved up to 140 and gave Pitbull Cruz the hardest fight of his life. He kind of deserves to come out of this year as a star, in my opinion, for the way that he raised his game on the brightest stage. I have nothing but respect for him. In some ways, this is boxing. You got close fights that could go either way if you don't finish them. But I believe in him as a true elite now, either at 35 or 40. And I think he might have the body to go to welterweight too eventually. Tough draw here, ultimately. But Lamont Roach has had an incredible year, and I almost think he deserves Fighter of the Year votes coming off of 2 majority draws.
It's crazy to say that, too. And this is the other part of BC. I'll say in defense of Roach, who, again, I like him and his father very much. A couple of DC guys, I'm going to be biased towards them. But BC, he didn't just dare to be great here and go into 35 and then 40, respectively, fighting big-time A-sides. And people are going to say, okay, well, Tank's an A-side, but how much is Pitbull Cruz? BC, tell the truth. Pitbull Cruz is one of the best ticket movers in boxing, particularly in these Mexican-American markets like San Antonio. He was the A-side, and he was the hometown favorite by a gazillion miles, even though he wasn't from San Antonio. So this guy is going up in weights into the Lion's Den against big names or big names in certain markets, which, again, when they land, the crowd roars, and when Roach lands, there's just a bunch of silence. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, this to me also feels like how hard it is to really upset the powers that be apple cart, so to speak, in boxing when you try to make a name for yourself. Very, very difficult to do.
They both at the press conference afterwards sort of argued over who won. Both agreed to a rematch. Like I said, Pitbull sort of blamed it on the referee for taking a point away for holding, but Pitbull had been dirty a lot of this fight and had been warned a lot. As much as I'd like to see a rematch here, Luke, this fight did wake up Tank Davis, whether you want to see him again or not. And he had replied to some fans, told a lot of the fans to F off, but ultimately said when his knee is healthy, I didn't know he had a knee setback, that he wants to rematch Pitbull. Now, if Tank Davis doesn't see jail time over the continued transgressions and domestic abuse, would you rather see Tank in a rematch with Pitbull or Roach, or just see those two fight each other again?
I don't know what to say about Tank Davis. I guess of all worlds, I'd like to see that more, because that one, he felt to me, the Pitbull fight was close, I thought. Tank fight was close too, but then with the knee, not really, right? He really should have won that one. He got fucking jobbed in that one. I don't feel like he necessarily got jobbed against Cruz, although I also had him winning. But yeah, 35 I think is better. And the Tank fight to me feels like the bigger wrong of the two, although I can understand an argument for the reverse. That's the one I'd like to see, but Tank is so freaking unpredictable. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'd love to see Tank Roach too. That'd be my choice out of all those three, but heck, if you had to do Tank Pitbull too, and then you put Roach on the co-main, maybe against a Frank Martin who had a breakthrough win or whatever, like, I think there's ways you can build toward this if Tank is committed again to the sport. We'll see what happens. Quickly on that co-main, boxing insiders were fired up about this fight. It was a virtual pick'em betting wise. Unfortunately for Stephen Fulton Jr., the featherweight title holder, he had tried to move up to 130 to challenge O'Shaquie Foster for his belt, looking to become the first 3-division champion in Philadelphia history. And he had said coming in, this will cement him for the Hall of Fame, and he wanted to move up to lightweight afterwards. Then he goes out and misses weight by 2 pounds. And because of alphabet shenanigans, the WBC then floats a completely unnecessary vacant interim lightweight title fight. It kept the fight alive, but in the end, dude, O'Shaquie Foster looked like an absolute complete champion with a borderline virtuoso drubbing. Now, he didn't get all 12 rounds from all 3 judges. He got all 12 rounds on my score sheet. Luke, how impressed were you with Foster making Fulton look like he didn't belong in the ring with him?
I was shocked by this. First of all, I was shocked that Fulton missed weight going up to 30. I was like, what the fuck is this? Dude, he got no one would argue, and I'm not arguing, BC, that the Inoue loss isn't worse. The Inoue loss is worse. He got finished and, was really never in that one either. I don't know how to explain this, BC. Maybe I'm just completely out of my mind. I'm not saying it is. I almost feel like this one is worse because it went the full distance and he got, dude, this was a masterclass when Foster was in Southpaw, like how to fight as a rangy Southpaw. I thought this was like, you could teach a class on how well he did it. But then, of course, going back to Orthodox at various points, including down the stretch as well. Man, dude, this was, Fulton just was made to look lesser than from beginning to end in this one. Domination is what I would call it. I don't think Fulton got like super beat up in this one, but he got outboxed. He got thoroughly outboxed in this one. Foster's best win to date in many ways, BC.
Yeah, and Foster had come off 3 straight split decisions, a controversial loss in between to Robson Conceição, and I think he really felt the criticisms people had given him for being a slow starter, a defensive fighter. He was full offense all the time. I was proud of him seriously to give him what he's been through in his life to have a victory like this. I think Fulton needs to go back to 26 if he can make it, or almost step away. And I hate to say that, Luke, he's still got great ability and he tried hard for 12 rounds, but he doesn't have the power to be a track you down guy. And he didn't have the speed to outbox Foster here. So he almost had nothing to miss weight, to have a video that was out there during the week at the press conference where he was bragging about eating 2 Thanksgiving meals because he didn't have to cut so hard and then he missed weight. It's a bad look overall. And shout out, of course, to Jesus Ramos Jr. for getting that secondary middleweight belt against Shane Mosley Jr. That was a very competitive fight. Quick highlight, though, of the featured prelim. The Ghost Frank Martin, who hadn't fought since that loss to Tank Davis on pay-per-view, moved up in weight 17 months later and sent Rancis Barthélemy to hell. Luke, that was a breakthrough performance. Are you a believer in the Ghost in the new weight class now?
I'm a believer that he ghosted on me 5 times for an interview, as I brought up now, because I'm definitely not bitter about it.
He did the same thing. He did the same thing to me, dude. It's rough. Yeah, the exact same thing.
And he followed me on Instagram, like when we were setting it up. I was like, oh, great, this will be cool. And then just kept not showing up. I'm like, oh my fucking God. But dude, that was great. And also, Rancis Barthélemy has stunk up the joint a million times. So, you know, he kind of had this one coming a little bit. But Frank Martin, you know, he was overmatched against Tank, but he looked fantastic here. Again, great southpaw fighter. BC, how about Frank Martin versus Lamont Roach? Wouldn't hate that one either. I would love that. You know?
I would love that. I hope we get a chance to see that. He's now with Buddy McGirt, by the way, after falling out with Derek James. So good win right there. That wraps up the PBC pay-per-view from over the weekend. Let's go now to our next segment here. We give you the chance every Sunday night on social media at Morning Combat on Instagram and X to get your questions heard. This one's called DMs from the Donks. All right, our boy, a man and his cat, leads off. What has been some of your favorite rematches that had extremely different outcomes than expected?
Because
I guess he's referencing, of course, the Yan Dvalishvili main event on Saturday. I'm thinking in boxing, of course, when Manny Pacquiao, after losing the first fight to Eric Morales, came back and stopped him and just ran through him after a very close start to that fight. That blew my mind. I'm trying to think in MMA, Luke, where
Shogun having that long battle with Machida, and then they rematched him, and he just bulldozed him right away. That was kind of interesting. You know, a little more like this one, which was the first time Couture and Liddell fought. Liddell got out wrestled, even though he came from a wrestling background. Everyone knows at Cal Poly. And then the second fight, Couture couldn't get shit going and got iced. And then obviously the third time too. But I don't know if that's exactly like it was a big upset as much as it just went very differently than the first time.
How about Fury Wilder too? That was pretty.
That was crazy. That was definitely crazy. In a shitty way, Joshua Ruiz. I'm not sure. I have to think about that one a little bit more because a lot of times we did see it coming. It just went differently. It's different than like, oh my God, I'm so surprised, you know?
Yeah. Interesting.
What are you doing over there with your left hand?
I was petting my cat. Reggie Jackson just arrived. He's here. Let me see if I can get him on the camera. Reg, say hi, buddy. Yeah, there we go. There we go. You know, Luke, he's making so many enemies in the house during Christmas season, hanging from the Christmas tree, beating up the girl cats, keeping everyone up at night by just screaming, running down the hallway screaming. You know,
He'll be the last one that I euthanize.
Oh my God, that's wild. All right. Thank you for the question, a man and his cat. I'm also one of those. Let's hear from Flannels and Jits. He says, with how Cejudo's career ended, how much did his last comeback impact his legacy? It's a good question because Cejudo walked away in his prime, 2 division champ, high on the pound for pound list, took 3 years off. He's 0-4 since that comeback, even though he fought well against Aljo in a split decision title loss. Luke, if he did not take that time off, what does his legacy look like?
Well, that's a different question. Put this one back up. How did the way his career ended, how did his last comeback impact his MMA legacy? So this is more about, okay, once he did come back, what did it add?
Does it change his legacy losing 4 in a row at the end?
It changes it a little bit, but it doesn't really undercut the fact that the guy was a fucking Olympic gold medalist and a 2-weight world. I mean, that's what I mean, dude. That is such an overwhelming achievement that, like, you have to go on a BJ Penn-esque run for there to be, like, people just to lose sight of what you did. This doesn't do that, but it clearly just what it did to me, BC, was it underscored what a tragic error in strategic thinking it was to take those 3 years off like that in the middle of his prime.
The last 5 fights before he left the sport in May of 2020 was a decision win over Sergio Pettis, a very quality win, an upset of Demetrius Johnson for the title, split decision over 5 rounds, a knockout of TJ Dillashaw for the flyweight title, and then goes up for the vacant bantamweight title, gets beat up by Marlon Moraes and comes back and stops him in round 3, and then defends the title against Dominic Cruz and Keith Peterson by TKO in round 2. I mean, obviously that's the run that made him a Hall of Famer, but he's got some other wins earlier in his career with that, but that run alone, dude, that's legendary.
That was a sick ass run. Yeah, he had a great moment there.
All right, let's go to our third one from Tori O'Neill. Now that Merab has lost, who is your fighter of the year? Now, I'm sure we're going to break that down as we get closer to the new year, but Luke, this changes because every discussion I've had about this with my editorial colleagues at CBS was always, well, it's going to be Merab. It's not going to be Merab now.
Yeah.
So
it can't be.
Is it Islam? Even though the Moicano victory in January isn't,
by the way, you can lose and still be a fighter of the year contender. So, for example, in the same year, Robbie Lawler lost a very controversial fight to Johnny Hendricks and then won a little bit and then rematched him later that year and then beat him. So he was 3-1 that year, technically, BC, like Merab is 3-1, but it's a little different when you avenge that loss later that year.
Does that compare to Conor McGregor's 2016, where he lost to Nate, beat him in a classic, and then knocked out Eddie to win the title?
Same kind of thing where you can avenge it. That's different. You can say Josh Van because, you know, he didn't lose and he fought 4 times and he won a title technically.
Yeah,
I feel to me the most, I'll say this, the single most impressive victory to me might be Yan. You could say Yan has a clear-cut case for it too, BC. He didn't have
what
a
were
bad
his
year.
other wins? Let me see.
Marcus McGee, and then what was the other one? He had one more, I think. Maybe it was just those 2, actually.
It was just those 2.
I can't remember if it was this year, though.
All right, well, what about this? What about legitimately
Islam might be the answer.
Islam's going to be high up there. What about Valentina? What about Manon Farrow, undefeated, physically tough, and then Zhang Weili in a fight that we thought was 50-50, and she beat the bad.
She's up there. Yeah, she's up there. Yeah, those were both. Yeah. You could say, you could make a case for her too.
Did Chimaev just fight once?
Just once. He beat the living. Well, I mean, he controlled, I should say, DDP to the worst extent possible, but
all right,
not much more than that.
We'll see where the votes go as we figure it out toward the end.
And Topuria, great win over Oliveira, but he fought just 1 time, so that's not enough.
And you can't give it to Merab. You can't.
No, you can't. Again, not because he went 3-1, but because of the way that it ended. Dude, if he had called it off, he would be the winner. 3 title defenses, that is fucking incredible.
Would Pantoja have been it if he had beaten Van straight up?
Say again?
If Pantoja had defeated Van, would he have been it?
Maybe. Who's WCA? Who am I not thinking of? Long
Salsa
Island?
boy, Cortez Acosta.
Oh, he went 4-1. Yeah, okay, but at heavyweight. I mean, let's be serious.
I'm just saying. I mean, he had a good year.
He had a good year. He definitely had a good year. He definitely had a good year. Yeah.
All right. Let's keep it going right here. The next one comes from Antonio M. Alvarez. What's a modern MMA trend that you'd love to see left behind in 2025?
Say that one more time.
What's a modern MMA trend that you'd like to see end this year? Is it buying
people on Twitter? People on
Plus?
Twitter talking about their favorite fighters as we.
Oh, that's bad. That's pretty lame. What
Yeah,
about dealing with ESPN Plus? We're gonna leave that behind, aren't we?
Well, I mean, I still have to watch PFL. You know.
Okay. What about
Mr. Paramount over there is like, I don't have to worry about that bullshit anymore. We still got to watch a little PFL, my friend.
Long Island Luke, you got any MMA trends we should leave behind?
I guess it's an MMA trend. I always hate when people say someone's a lock to win a fight. Like, oh, they're a lock. They're gonna no one's a fucking lock, man. It's a fight. So leave that behind.
You sound like an old Luke Thomas going, we don't know who's going to win. Nobody knows who's going to win. How could I give a prediction? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. Everyone pretends they know. No one knows.
I like when they be like, Luke, what's your best bet of the weekend? You're like, well, I mean, minus 1,400 favorite. He's going to win. That's the best bet. Yeah.
Dude, I like how you think that this is not a sound way of advising people. Everyone who gets it right is also just doing a guessing game. They mostly don't even know. And half the time, more than half the time, that they get it right, their reasoning isn't even very good. They're just guessing. Take it for what it is.
Our final question comes from Sticks Plays Time. If you could talk to the mid-30s version of you right now, what would you say to them? So let's say the 35-year-old version of Luke Thomas. That would be 11 years ago. That would be 2014. What are you saying to that man?
You're not going to believe this, but you should change careers immediately.
Get the frick out of here.
Yeah, that's what I would tell them. If I was 35, that's what I would, or I had a chance to talk to that 35. Yeah, that's what I would tell them.
Okay. I would tell the 35-year-old me to believe it's possible. Believe the doors can open. Believe that just because something falls apart that you had a big opportunity in doesn't mean that it's the end of your run in that field. Believe. Luke's like, actually, I would tell myself, don't follow your dreams. You're only going to be disappointed.
It's a terrible mistake to make. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to tell the 35-year-old version of you, Luke?
Just that. Like, you've got a certain kind of sophomoric idea about how you think your life's going to go, and it's not going to go that way. It's better to be a very cold but calculated realist about it. And yeah.
People that are realists end up in 9-to-5s that they hate, Luke. I'd rather believe, all right?
That doesn't sound so bad. Yeah. You asked me. It's very weird that you ask me my opinion and then don't like it when I tell you something that's unpleasant, I suppose. But people have a lot of bad ideas. I mean, dude, this is a terrible industry to be involved in. And I don't fully regret it. That's not. I didn't say that. But yeah, if I had 11-year window to make a lap move, I would have done it.
All right, then. The very honest musings of one Luke Thomas. Let's go to our final segment. Thank you for your questions, fans. Where I scoured the globe yesterday for the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and lows, and in between. In the world of combat sports and beyond, there's kernels in my shit. Have you seen them? Hooah! Indeed. All right. Luke, PBC over the weekend. Pitbull Cruz was acting like a freak in the ring. It came when he was most frustrated by Roach. What do you make of this move? Did you see that?
One more time.
It gave him the tongue, the full tongue. You into that?
I've given some people that tongue before.
Okay, all right. Who knew he was a freak? All right, big week for Merab. Here's an interesting soundbite that came heading into 323.
If I lost against him, the Petr Yan, I will kill myself, you know? Because
what the Well, okay, there's that.
Like
Yep. Also, Merab ran into a fan who tried to do the Bruce Buffer bit. It was great.
a mixed martial arts record of 19 wins with 4 losses. He stands 5 feet 6 inches tall, weighing in at 100.
That's
I now think Merab is the best fighter in the world.
Yes. Long Island Luke, let's skip the Merab ambulance clip. Let's go to our regional MMA highlights of the week. Luke, where what? Anything?
Anything can happen, brother.
All right. This is ACA. This man is Mirzabekov. He gets the submission win, but watch the celebration. The thing about celebrating is you don't want to pass out, right?
Wow, he is jacked. What the fuck? Okay. Wow.
Okay, he passed out during the celly.
Dude, if you beat the opponent, don't let gravity beat you. You know what I'm saying?
Indeed. Let's go to FFC 99. Check out this ending.
Okay, you know what's so funny about this? The KO is incredible. This guy who won, Lucas Corbaji, I called the fight just before this of him. He fought in XFC, and he got smashed in like, I don't know, maybe 7 seconds. Like one of the shortest fights you've ever seen, like something crazy. The dude who beat him is like waiting to be signed by the UFC, and they haven't signed him yet. And I don't know what they're waiting on, because you can see the guy we beat is pretty quality.
We're probably waiting on him to accept a 12-12, Luke.
Yeah, maybe so.
Look, you've been an active man in your life. What's your favorite form of birth control?
The old pull-out method. You know what I'm saying? Got to roll that dice, brother.
Never fails until it does. Let's check out a new option.
This is the most effective birth control on the market. If you use this, your chances of getting pregnant or getting someone pregnant drops to 0. So it's called Magic the Gathering, and it's this card game.
All right, Luke, it is the holiday season. Let's go back and receive some love from one O.J. Simpson.
Covering up the white meat. I mean, I don't think that it actually said that. I think someone put that on there, but that's a funny bit. You know what I mean?
All right. Your jersey of the week. Let's shout out to number 8 here.
Wow. Wow. Why would you ever go to a football game? Honestly.
I don't know. With your
What
family.
would be the point?
I don't know. Luke, there ain't no holiday like Thanksgiving. You know, I've said that before. Let's bring in Boston Be a Man.
Invite a hooker to your family dinner and tell everybody she's your girlfriend. Be a man.
I've gotten pretty close at times, BC. You know what I mean?
Luke, let's do a Thanksgiving special of Would You Eat? They call this the Franksgiving dog. So you take a glizzy, you put some cranberry on, all right? You get some stuffing. Dude, this is brilliant. Gravy? How have I never tried this? Would you eat it, Luke?
No.
Oh, come on, dude. That's the best part of Thanksgiving on a glizzy.
Why would I eat gravy with cranberry jelly
and stuffing?
Yeah. That looks like yes. Also, can I say something?
Yeah, please.
As a lot of people constantly seek, how do I say this exactly? They want too much balance in their food. I want it sweet and sour. I want sweet and savory. And some combination of that at times is great. Sometimes I don't want to mix sweet with my savory. I just want savory. And I feel like we have too much of I want opposites in my food. And I don't necessarily always need that.
Some people want a dream job that's in line with their passions. Luke is like, don't do it. Okay, don't do it.
It's a gigantic mistake. Yeah.
We have a bonus Would You Eat, Luke. It's called the Moby Dick Burger. Keep an open mind. Would you eat this?
Is that an egg? Is that cheese?
That's cheese. That's
and there's like some kind of pink sauce, and bacon.
Oh my God!
They're gonna wrap this motherfucker up.
Yeah, it's wow.
All right, they're gonna. Oh, okay. All right, let's see the insides.
Oh,
yeah, fuck yeah, I'd eat that. Are you kidding
me?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Look at this guy.
I'd eat that in a second. This guy's gross, and I hope he dies. But
okay,
that's a good-looking burrito.
All right, Luke, let's go to one more. Would you eat? Some people have different things for their wedding. How about a glizzy wedding cake?
Okay, I'm on board with this.
Yes.
It's like a Jenga tower of shitty hot dogs. Hell yeah, bro.
By the way,
let's go to work on that. By the way, it honestly looks like Han Solo is at the top of that fucking glizzy cake, you know?
The best wedding I ever went to about 5 years ago, my uncle got married in his front yard. He had a hot dog stand, an ice cream truck, and cases full of Jenny Light beer. I mean, it was.
I'll say this too. for the president. I'm being serious about this. Do you remember when he invited all, like, I think it was Clemson he had at the White House, and he had that vast array of fast food?
Yes.
Remember, it was like all like the Big Mac boxes and everything. I was like, I'm not super mad at that. Can I be can I be honest? I'm not super mad at that at all.
They say that guy DT4547 loves some Mickey D's, Luke. Loves it.
I mean, let he who is without sin cast the first stone.
Yeah,
Who doesn't,
indeed.
you know?
Luke, we always want Aspinall to fight through blindness, but, you know, mixing sports with injuries can be dangerous. Same thing with bowling. Let's watch this gentleman. Good form so far.
Oh, you
God.
idiot.
White on the broken arm. That's not going to be good. Let's go to
keep fucking up the surgery you get, dumbasses.
Yeah. Gridiron time in the NFL. Our cock punch of the week comes from this 49ers game. Look at this. With the cast.
Ooh.
Damn.
Dude. And these guys often have like some kind of protective coating on it, you know, so it's a little
like
brass knuckly, you know.
It's like Margarito in the Mosley fight. You know what I mean? It's wild. All right, Luke, the Yoel Romero Bellator bit will never not make me laugh. Check this out. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great bit. Luke, let's check in on the WWE. You big Paul Heyman guy, Luke? Watch this kid try to come up for some love. Get the fuck out
Okay,
of
he's
here.
now my favorite person in the world.
Also, Luke,
anybody who tells other strangers to get the fuck out of their face is my kind of guy. You know what I'm saying?
Check out fighters in the wild. Here's Sean Strickland running up on some kids. Very relatable.
Yeah. Bro, I ran into this fucking guy, and he's buying fucking drugs from that guy real bad. Get it, bro. Get it. My man.
That was a decent interaction. Come on.
A man among his people, I suppose. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand. Let's go to Chechnya, Luke. Rate the dancing skills of Boney and Chimaev.
Now, is this when they're doing dictator games? Yeah, there's the kid of Ramzan Kadyrov.
Yes, Luke. This
is a negative 8 billion out of 0.
Okay,
out of 10
okay. It's, you know, people will get down, Luke. You okay? Also, here's Derek Lewis with the soundbite of the week.
The biggest shit I ever taken, you know, I really can't remember, but the biggest shit I ever took was probably 2016 on a cruise ship, eating all them damn burgers, probably stacked the shit this high in the toilet in one day, at one time. That's probably like the biggest shit. And the toilet wasn't even that big. The shit actually started coming up. It was piling up so high, it started coming up almost tickling my balls, but I had to get that shit out of there.
Yeah, I had a buddy of mine once who told me he took a dump and it was in a foreign country, so like the hole that flushes it was not in the back, it was in the front. And so what ended up happening was he would take a dump and it would be slapping his balls. He took a ball slap. That's why he told me about it. He was like, I took a ball slapping dump. So yeah,
I want out of this conversation. Speaking of,
you're the one who put this in here. I didn't arrange this. You did
it's
this.
Time to get flatulent. I've got a great Christmas gift idea for you. Check out this action figure.
Me leaving a party because I shit my pants action figure.
I mean, it's relatable, right?
I don't need to shit my pants to leave a party, but I definitely would if I did.
Yeah, I'd give them the Lithuanian exit. At least be respectful and tell them, right? I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Let's hear from this lady.
I like to shit. You like to shit. We like to shit. This is shitting. I piss, you piss, we piss. This is piss.
I mean, you know, it was poetic.
How high were you when you put this list together?
Luke, our toilet of the week takes us to this construction site. Would you drop here?
I like how this show is just pee-pee poo-poo. And we're nearly 50.
Okay, let's go to Wheel of Fortune for our haha of the week.
Corinne. Minors and hoes. No. Stacy.
Fingers and toes.
That's it.
They're like, what was the category? Things you'd bang. He's like minors and hoes, you know?
Luke, we've been running clips every once in a while of Jay Aaron getting in the best shape of his life over 40. You remember
Yeah,
this?
SEAL Team 6, Jay Aaron.
Yeah, he went to the High Rocks Dallas. Is this CrossFit? I don't know, but
This is CrossFit for people who are not in shape.
He put out a highlight video. He's pretty built, right?
No.
Pennington? No.
He looks as middle-aged and shitty and average as ever.
All right. Well, he put this out on his IG a lot, Luke. There was a lot of this on there. Okay. All right. You'll never be in that shape again, will you, Luke?
No, I'll be dead before I'm in this kind of shape.
All right. I mean, shout out to
I'll still beat his ass though. Know that.
All right, Luke, it's time to rate that tat 1 to 10, 10 being awesome. Up first, let's go glizzy time.
I'll give it a 5 for funniness.
Okay, there's some respect there. All right, let's go to this head tat. That's not bad, dude.
That is a lot.
Yeah, but can you run that one more time? I mean, rate the art here, Luke.
The art itself is not that great. That's the problem.
All right.
The colors are saturated, but it's
so what does it get? A 6? All right. This next tattoo is a political thing, but rate the artistry, Luke.
It's no, as a tattoo, the thing is, it's a little too light. You know, 6, 5, something like that.
Okay. We got one more for you, Luke. You ever get drunk and then you hurt yourself, but you don't realize it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's watch this guy. Oh boy. Oh, come on. Oh my God. That is
just snapping his ankle.
I don't even think he knows though.
Just too drunk. Oh
God, he'll never walk again. Wow. All right. That's all the shit we can handle today. Have you, in fact, seen it?
Wow, you're like, hey, this guy is now on crutches for the remainder of his time on Earth.
He's eating good, though. You know that. Hey, morningcombat@gmail.com. You can reach the show this Friday. We will be addressing your fan subs, your dead wrongs, maybe even the pictures of your bare pipe. Send it to Mikey at morningcombat@gmail.com. Reminder, our merch is here. Morningcombat.shop. December exclusives from Average Joe Art Romero. It is the Masters of the Universe. Get your t-shirt, get your autograph poster, mix and match colors, evergreen items available for the holidays. Order by December 11th. Have the best chance of getting it for Christmas. It's morningcombat.shop. All proceeds go in the pockets of LT, LIL, and the B Sizzle. Thank you for that. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for playing today. Special shout out as always to our great sponsors, DraftKings, Cuervo. I mean, it's the best. It's the best time. Total Wireless too. I mean, we got great people.
In about 2 hours at 3 p.m. East Coast time today, I'm going to be doing a live tape study of the main event from Saturday. That's for paid subscribers only on my Substack. But if you're so inclined or you're available and you already pay, be on the lookout. 3 p.m.
Long Island Luke, thank you for your efforts today. What can we look forward to on the main card minute this week as we build to the final ESPN card in UFC history?
I know it's bittersweet. I was going to say I'll have a bet breakdown out for that tomorrow. New prop quiz on Friday, but we'll talk about that on Friday's show.
All right, I'm thinking of doing a live this week, first time in a while. So stay tuned to the BCX
for the final card.
No, just to talk shit and see what's
talk shit. Okay,
catch up with people. All right, catch up, mustard, all that stuff. All that and then some. Tall, pale, and handsome. Your boy BC for the LT, for the LIL. It's been fantastic recapping the fights with you this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great week. Until then, we are out of here.